Right, so guys, we're now live on YouTube. I've got to sort out TikTok.
Hello, everyone.
Silly buggers at the moment. Good evening. I don't get why it's not. I've gone live on TikTok every day for the last 3 days just to make sure this is working, and it's been perfect. And the second we're due to go live, it decides to play up. So I need to stop being tight-fisted, and I need to put my hand in my pocket and buy that battery that I need for it. So how is everyone anyway?
Good, you?
Yeah.
Yeah, not too bad.
Nice time machine.
Yeah, not too bad. We've got 3 on there watching us already. I don't know if that's any of you two, but
it is. It's
yeah, this is just ridiculous.
I think it's just us.
So how's it go? Hi,
I've
me.
been specifically testing this out to make sure we didn't have no glitches. And what happens the second we're about to go live, it starts glitching like hell. And the cat's somewhere in the flat screeching. Yeah, no, but my whole screen's frozen.
You're actually
still
moving it now at the moment, which is something you weren't doing before.
Yeah. I would have done it on my newer laptop, but my new laptop, it doesn't have the processing capability. Well, it's not powerful enough to run the TikTok app. So, but we're doing retro cognition tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Deja vu.
This is it's just really annoyed me. It worked. I was on it earlier today, even today, just to make sure gaming, not one single glitch. It worked absolutely spot on perfect. And now, actually, it looks like it's now decided to start collecting. Oh,
yeah, you're moving again.
And it's all frozen, hasn't it?
It had, but there's movements coming back.
Yeah, I'll settle down in a second. How is Linda?
All right.
How is he? He said the car's a write-off.
Yeah. Car's more than
car's a
likely
write-off.
going to be written off, but he's okay. And his dad was being chauffeur for a worky thing today, so.
Oh,
He said he's gone through all the forms and stuff, so it should all be in process.
What's it like? The temperature's been like where you lost that? Oh, we lost Jonah. Oh, he's back. Finally, he's starting to do something on TikTok.
Up here, until when Colin was up here, it was cold. It wasn't cold, but it was like 15 to 19 when he was up here. The day he decided to go home, it went back to 23.
It's
typical.
29 today, right now here. It was 32 earlier today.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been nowhere near that today.
When I was streaming I streamed up until about 10 past midnight last night, I think it was. And the thermometer thing said it was still 62 degrees at midnight, which is just unbearable for me. I hate the heat.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm impressed.
She's hated it.
I'm impressed. Ian's comments come up on my TV screen this time.
Hey.
It keeps coming up saying show the camera, but obviously you're.
Brilliant.
You've vanished again.
Something's going on there. Well, working somewhere.
That was me.
Yep, that one's come up as well. Brilliant.
Who's that one?
That's
I'm
me.
guessing it's Joe.
Yeah.
Pacific Coast. That's me. I got that. That was my old paranormal thing, and I used to do all my YouTube stuff, my quick shows and things like that way back when. So this is my premium channel. I paid for this one, and so I always wind up.
It's up. I've got it running. So the TikTok keeps saying I need to show camera, but I've got the camera on. It's literally right there. Oh.
I'm not a TikToker, so I've no idea. I wouldn't know how to get on it.
I'm not. Well, you know yourselves, I've only started doing the TikTok a few days ago. The camera is there. There we go. Every time I turn the camera on, I go, oh, there we go. Oh, right. Now the camera has accepted the camera this time. Right, finally, we might be able to get on with this because I found some good ones. Linda knows quite a few good ones. And you said, Linda, you had some personal experience as well.
I got a couple of little short personal ones that.
So who wants to start this one this week?
Oh, go with Linda's personal experiences.
Okay. Well, the first one's about 21 years ago. I was coming home from Derby after doing an event at Derby Jail with Richard Felix. And as usual, coming home the Sunday, they're working on the lines. So you have to go an entirely different route to how you come down. And on the way back, I had to go through York Station. And the train was late, so everybody was running like mad things to try and get their connecting train. At this point in history, I was at least 6 stone heavier than I am now, so I couldn't keep up. I got left behind by the crowd, and all of a sudden, there's only me in the tunnel underneath the station. There's only me, and I'm like, okay, there's no signs down here. Where am I supposed to be going for this platform? I know it's generally in that direction, but where the hell am I going? And I kind of stopped and had a little mini meltdown and did a wee help. And then I went round the next corner, and there's a dude that's about... Yeah, literally. Hey, help. Get round the next corner, and there's a dude that's about 6 foot, maybe 6'2". Top hat and tails, but 1800 style top hat and tails down to the mid-calf length tails, all in grey. And he's like,
fairness, that part of the country is probably pretty common, that sort of clothing.
Yeah.
I
thought he was a reenactor because I know York has ghost tours. So
yeah.
I says to him, I'm trying to get to platform whatever number platform it was I was trying to get to. And he's like, yeah, just follow on here, take a right, then take a left, and you'll be there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Cheers. And off I went. And I got there, and one of the members of staff said to me, oh, you're looking awful flustered. I says, well, yeah, I got a bit lost in the tunnels, but one of the local reenactor guides helped me. And he pulled a funny face, and I went, what? What's wrong? He says, well, what's he wearing? I says, grey top hat and tails. He's about 6, maybe 6'2". He says, yeah. He says, clean shaven, but with like almost a suggestion of a tash. Cool. And
we're now live on TikTok as well, guys. Finally.
Cool. So I says, yeah, we suggestion of a tash, but nothing much. And he says, yeah. He says, we hear a lot about this guy. He says, none of the reenactors that do the ghost tours know who he is. But I don't know if I slipped back or if I had a ghost direct me to the correct platform. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, sometimes it's kind of like
That's
How
what
do
I'm
you tell?
wondering. Yeah, I was just wondering, could it be been an apparition more than a time slip?
I don't know. Because as I say, all of a sudden,
Oh.
nobody was around me all of a sudden. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I know they're moving faster than me, but it's a potential. It could be
Yeah.
either, really.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the other one is only.
Well, that's one theory about it, isn't it? That's one theory about it, is the vibrations that they're on are slightly different to what we're on, and if you can balance or speed up your vibrations, then you are more likely to see it. But
yeah,
and you said there was a second one.
The second one is more like about 10 years ago. One of the buildings that I work at has a clear shot of the empty open sky above an RAF field. And the red arrows were up at that point. It was a family's day like what we had recently. And I was sitting on the picnic bench on my lunch watching the red arrows, just 20 yards away from where I would be working. And on this particular occasion, they had a Spitfire come over. I'm watching the Spitfire and I'm squinting against the sun because at that point I didn't have a camera phone. And I'm watching the Spitfire, and as per usual, I got my cigarette in my hand because I'm on lunch break, mind. And all the sounds seemed to fade out. I was just completely 100% focused watching the Spitfire, doing loop-de-loops and wee things like that. Totally focused. All the sounds seemed to fade out. And then he flew off in a different direction, which is usually the way they go when they're finished the display. And I thought, oh, well, that's over and done with. And I noticed my cigarette had gone out, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's not hard. I've been sitting glued to this thing for about 10 minutes. And then I checked my phone as I got back in the shop. I'd apparently been sat on the picnic bench for 2.5 hours. Now, I don't know how much fuel the Spitfire carries, but I'm pretty sure they can't do loop-de-loops, etc. for 2.5 hours. Not a plane of that age.
No.
So that was the one complete oddity.
No.
I'm like, oh yeah, it's only 10 minutes. And then when I check the time, I'm like, what? What happened there? Did I zone out? I didn't come too laid on the floor, so I didn't pass out. I didn't have a fit, any of that. The only thing I noticed was my cigarette's gone out, but that's understandable when you've been watching something for 10 minutes and not actually smoking it. But I've no answer as to what happened to the 2.5 hours.
Yeah. I've done it.
What were you actually smoking at the time?
Same as these. Nicotine. Normal nicotine. I can't say I've ever dabbled in any of that stuff voluntarily. I've walked into a room full of it and passed out.
Yeah, I've never done it myself. I've been in cars where people have been doing it, and I've got out and I've felt awful. I absolutely detest the smell of that stuff. That's one good thing about where I am. You don't occasionally you'll get one of the local yobs walk past smoking a joint, but generally it's not too bad. But now it's just people now just starting to creep in on TikTok with us.
It's bad round here at the moment. Things to be getting worse. But like you say, it's the skunk variant, and skunk is right.
I remember one time last year. It was warm. It was market day, and all the mini goths and emos and all them kind of folk are out and about. And there was a bunch of somebody, I don't know which group it was, that was smoking stuff, and they were 15 feet away from me. But it was like the entire afternoon, that's all you can smell. And by 4 o'clock, I whited outside in the street, and I whited. That stuff was smelling that strong.
Well, one of mates runs his own business, DIY business. One of the lads he had working.
Is that you, Joe? Yeah. That's all right. I was just checking the Facebook, YouTube. Sorry.
He'd get up and the first thing he did was spark up a joint. And he'd get in the van with the other lads. The other lads smoked. But it was one after the other all day. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not. Nothing.
Oh, for God's sake.
I'm surprised he didn't have time slips.
Yeah. Right, so the Versailles case. Who wants to go talk about that one first?
Versailles, yes. The two women, 1907. They were
I didn't think it was that far back in time, actually, until I looked back into it. Yeah,
no, this is they were quite a way back in time. 1907. Charlotte Mobley was she was a president of an Oxford society. So very intelligent lady. The other lady was her assistant. So again, certainly not stupid or
certainly not
prone to things like that. They were on a tour of Versailles and decided that, you know what, it's a bit boring this. We'll go off and explore. I don't know whether you've ever been to Versailles or ever seen it. The place is absolutely huge.
It's definitely bigger than my garden here.
Wow. Definitely bigger than mine, including my house. We're ready. Yeah. Eleanor Jourdain was the other girl, was the other woman. They went out. It's called the Trianon Garden, which is basically there's two of them. There's the main one and a small one, but it's also got palaces in and other buildings. They went out, went looking for the main one, which was closed. So they decided they'd go looking for the small one, which housed Marie Antoinette's own palace. As they were looking for it, they were passing people in period costumes and were looking. They actually got directed where to go by one of them. They got there. The Charlotte decided that there was a woman painting. She'd go and talk to the woman who was painting. Didn't think anything of it.
Didn't they claim it was Marie Antoinette herself?
Yeah, but this was after. She only recognised her after when she went into the building. Right. Hang on.
Okay. TikTok's running a little bit slow at the minute.
Yeah. If you put, I've just put a photo in.
But
when they went back into the building,
I don't know if
you can get it up, but they went back into the building, and this was the painting she saw, and they said that's the woman I was talking to, which is Marie Antoinette.
She's got very big hair.
I have clicked on it, whether I respond on
it. Came up and then went off, but
yeah, that was my fault. That was sorry.
They were trying. Well, there's a lot of people tried to debunk it. They went back several times trying to actually recreate it, and couldn't because there were things missing. There were buildings missing. There was paths missing that were there when they went out. And
yeah, as I mentioned to you in chat earlier, was about the bridge that they claimed they walked across that allegedly had never been there in the first place.
It has. That was debunked itself because they've actually found maps.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Long after their time, long after it was allegedly debunked, but they have found maps that tie in exactly with what they saw and where they went, and it included the bridge.
Right, yeah.
The other woman,
I do
didn't realise, didn't see Marie Antoinette herself, didn't see her face or anything, so she couldn't corroborate who she'd actually seen. She saw her talking to someone, but they then released,
not sure who.
several years later. People have tried debunking it. They were accused of being lesbians. They were accused of being bloody all sorts of things. The usual crap throwing when people, it can't be right. I've had people tell me that parts of my life didn't happen because they don't believe it.
Yeah.
So have you led my life?
It's going to take a while, unfortunately, to get views on the TikTok, because where me and Linda had a cigarette on, we've now been restricted.
Oops.
I was at a morning.
Disgusting.
We had a fag on, we got restricted.
Encouraging people to smoke.
That's basically what TikTok says. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I put a few likes on there to try and sway people.
Well, the latest one with, they're saying you shouldn't call kids naughty now. That's the latest one that's coming out. Can't call them naughty because it, and they wonder why the world's in the state. It damages
their ego. Oh yeah.
But the Versailles one, the Versailles one. Like I said, a lot of people at the time who were trying to debunk it were church people. And I wonder why they were trying to debunk it.
What a surprise.
Yeah. It's the usual thing. Like anything, people say something's happened and there's always people who will knock it.
Yeah.
So,
there will be, yeah.
Like I said, the fact that
the
map was found that
my photo and even that one you took.
Well, yeah. Yeah, the photo I took I was told, oh no, this has been debunked years ago. I only took it 6 weeks ago. And it's my photo.
Yeah.
No, it's been debunked.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, it's like with your favourite topic of UFOs, Ian. For instance, you could have a live stream of Trump in the White House garden, a UFO land right by the side of him, come out and say, you lot and us lot are the only two lives in the whole universe. And the following day, you'll still have people going, well, I don't believe it. It's fake.
Yeah.
So
they'll believe that's
part of human nature.
It is.
Joe, you're in front. You're quite... Sorry.
I said it's like anything. It can happen in front of them and they won't believe it. There's none as blind as them who won't see. You can give them all the facts and show them and they'll still turn around and tell you it's wrong.
Yeah, sorry, Bella's just recognised your voice. Come on then. Come on then. You want to come say hello?
Told you, I'm not doing the ugly one.
Just before us tried this up, we had... Look, she dumped them by the side of the laptop just before we went live.
So we got viewers.
If you want to say hello. There we go. You want to... Oh, you're smiling. Oh, she's smiling as well. You want to smile? You smile? You smile? Hello. Can you let me listen to what Ian's saying, please? Yeah? Oh. She had every week without fail, she has to get in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
All right, lay there. That's it, that's a good girl. So, right, Joe, you're in front. How far from Versailles are you, Joe?
Well, it's about 6.5 hours by train. 7.5 if you take the other way around. It's quite a ways. I have to go up through Toulouse and then cut across to Paris. Versailles just outside of Paris. Then you get to the train station. You got to get there.
Yeah, you forget just how big France is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's quite a ways. When I was up there in
April, I think it's very small, but it's not, is it?
It's a pretty long train ride. It's an 8-hour drive.
Ooh. Have you not been tempted to go up there and use your old spidey sense and see what you picked up?
Not at Versailles, no. I was just there in April. My nephew came out to visit, and my son and nephew and I went up to Paris.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
we did our first show from there. Walking around all over the place. We only had a couple of days, so we were at the Louvre, Notre Dame, and the Eiffel Tower, and then walking in between all of those places. So it was a good little quick trip, and there was I picked up a lot of stuff. Very confusing at the Louvre though, because there's so many people. It's so crowded. You're walking around, picking up all these people that are walking around, and what else do you get?
Yeah. Well, that's it. If you got any sort of
have any of you ever done the catacombs?
No.
In Paris, I did catacombs once. But it wasn't on a tour. It was just like hey, let's go down real quick and that. So I went down with some people that had access. We went down, walked around a little bit, and then came back up.
Yeah.
And that was it. We weren't allowed to go anyplace else or do anything else.
Yeah.
So
none of us had ever did
that.
But I would like to go down and do a tour.
We did Paris
something
with
like 400 miles of
Versailles.
Isn't the catacombs something like 400 miles of tunnel?
I don't know. I know
it's
it's
an
huge.
awful lot. It is absolutely massive because it goes all round under.
I did see one thing that said that if you were to complete the catacombs below Paris, it's effectively like walking every street in the entire city twice, at least.
Yeah, so it extends well beyond the boundaries of the city itself as well. So
there's 6 million people buried down there.
Mm-hmm.
All in bits.
miles.
Time slips. We were talking just before we came on air about Bold Street in Liverpool.
Yeah.
He's vanished again.
Yeah.
The one I first heard about was the copper.
Yes.
Right.
But I think it
was
Frank, late 90s. And he was out shopping with his missus.
Mm-hmm.
Decided they were going to go to the Waterstones bookshop on Bold Street. He was walking there. His missus went to get something else. And as he walked into Bold Street, he was walking up, and what he thought was Waterstones was a clothes shop.
Right.
Yeah.
And as he was stood looking at it, someone else, a young lady, came up, again dressed in modern clothes. But it was only when he saw her and looked round, he saw people in the clothes from the 60s, cars and everything from the 60s. There was a van with a name on, Builders Merchants or something. And when they actually walked in to the shop, the woman turned around to him and said, she said, "Oh, thank God for that." She said, "I thought it had changed to a clothes shop." And walked off totally bemused.
Mm-hmm.
And he, like I say, he was an ex-copper, so not one given to flights of fancy.
Yeah.
But apparently there's a few, isn't there?
Did you see? I found a reply on the story from the lady.
Oh, I've not seen that.
Yeah, I found it this afternoon. She called. Well, she's given herself a nom de plume, and she's put, "Hi, I'm the girl in 1996 who spoke to Frank. This experience has always stayed with me. It was not until finding it written out online that I knew he had documented it. I was delighted and relieved at the time, especially as he had documented it. I was in my late 20s and he was maybe in his late 40s. I have experienced other slips, mainly in Liverpool, one in Edinburgh railway station and another in Turkey. I was the lady in the BBC Two Uncanny episode in Bold Street." So she's the young lass, and she goes on to say about some of her other suspected slips and things. So, but then you get all the usual stuff you get online. The theory that's come out from that one and the couple other stories she shared that Joe Public seems to have come out with, which kind of makes sense, is the railway stations at least have what appears to be almost concentric circles of metalwork around them, and perhaps it's acting like a battery to attract and utilize the energy in different ways than what was intended.
I've heard that theory. I've also, well, it'd tie in with it, the EMF theory.
Mm-hmm.
That it's creating a massive magnetic field.
Yeah.
Which is like you said, causing disturbances in the time continuum, for want of a better phrase. Possibility. There's awful lot that we don't say. There's quite a lot of different possible reasons that are expounded for why it happens, why we get these.
The one I liked was a shoplifter in the same area as this Frank and Carol story. Shall I go on with it?
Yeah, Carl said he'll be right back, so.
Okay. Well, this one is a young man called Sean, who, while shoplifting in Liverpool back in 2006, ran away from a security guard, headed down Hanover Street, trying to shake off the guard. Sean, who was 19 at the time, turned into a dead-end street called Brooks Alley, which is also mentioned in the Frank and Carol story. By this time, he was out of breath and started to get a tight sensation in his chest. But he realized that it wasn't just a problem with him, it was a problem with the atmosphere around him. He waited for the guard to come round the corner after him, but he never appeared. So thinking he'd given the slip, he sauntered back out and started to walk down Hanover Street again. But he soon realized something was wrong. The road looked different, and so did the pavement. The cars driving by looked very old-fashioned. The roadworks that he knew were there 10 minutes ago are now gone. Soon he noticed that the people around him were wearing strange clothes. Crossing over to Bold Street, he noticed that there were traffic lights where there weren't any traffic lights there earlier, and bushes growing around the Lyceum near a bar that he recognised. He carried on walking, realising that actually something was really, really odd. He began to panic, realised that somehow he'd stepped back in time and the time slip was not going away. Then he remembered he had his cell phone in his pocket. Took it out, tried to get a signal, but of course there isn't one. Eventually he really began to panic, but spotted a kiosk selling newspapers and headed over. Leaned over the stand, took a look at the front page of the Daily Post. In bold lettering, 18th of May, 1967. He didn't know what to do. What happens if I can't get back home? What about family and friends, etc., etc.? So speeding up, he reached H. Samuel, the jeweler's, tried his phone once more, and this time it worked. Sighing with relief, he looked round and realised that he had returned to the present. But the strange thing was, he could still see at the end of the road the people that were walking around in 1967. So by this time, he'd seen enough, dived into a bus and went home, not knowing if he was losing his mind or what. When he was interviewed by the local paper, he said 4 times the exact same thing over and over again. But the twist. A lot of folk think Sean was making the story up to escape from the guard. But the newspaper interviewed the security guard. He stated that he ran after Sean literally a matter of feet behind him, and he turned down the dead-end alley after him, and Sean had completely disappeared. Newspaper checked out the facts of Sean's story, found everything he said was historically accurate for shops, etc. I like that one.
I do too.
Yeah. It's one of those. I think I'd be in the same boat as Sean. How the hell am I going to get back?
Yeah. And the bit that they've put in the bottom as a footnote to this is Brooks Alleyway is smack bang dead centre of the concentric circles around the railway station there. So it's an interesting idea that could be. I mean, as you say,
a little bit to your
with it being a railway station, there's electrics and metal everywhere, and the two are going to magnify each other as far as electromagnetic field. And there's the more both feet on solid ground thing where the EMF field's really strong and people are hallucinating, but why would they all be hallucinating the same kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, it's a strange one that, like you said, in that area, there's only that particular stretch where it happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's another one on there of a young girl, and she decided to go into Liverpool to buy her sister a few things for a new baby. She was happy to see a new Mother Care store that opened up on the corner of Lord Street in Whitechapel. She wandered round the store picking up baby items and everything. She was surprised to see how cheap items were, but thought they were on offer. Taking them to the counter, she tried to pay with a credit card, and the staff member looked at her suspiciously and went off to get the manager. When she came back, she took the card off and told Imogen that they didn't take cards. So, disappointed, she went back and put the things back because she didn't have any money with her. When she got home, she told her mother what had happened, and her mother was surprised and said, "That store closed years ago. There's a bank there, and I've actually got my account there." Not believing her, Imogen, the girl, took her mother back to the same place, and sure enough, there was a bank. No Mother Care.
Yeah.
They probably went out of business because they didn't take cards.
Possibly. But that must have been so disconcerting.
Yeah. There's some good ones going on tonight. Good stories. I've got one here in 2 English couples. We're going to go to...
This is the one in France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, two English couples were on a road trip to go to northern Spain for 2 weeks. So they were driving down, and they got to a small town, which is between Montpellier and Marseille, just north of that up there. It's a little town. And they're driving down the main road. And they stopped off at a motel. They said there were no rooms available, but go down this road over here, and there's a hotel over there you can stay at. So they went down and they found this hotel, very old-fashioned, Victorian style. The rooms were old-fashioned. The one bathroom on the floor was very Victorian. Heavy bolsters on the beds. I mean, it was really old-fashioned. The dinner that they had that night in the little restaurant was very Victorian style. It was crazy. And they went to sleep and got up the next morning to travel on. And the fee was, or the rate was 19 francs. This was in 79. So it was 19 francs is all that they paid. So they thought, wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So, so they went on and they paid it and went to Spain, did their thing. And they were coming back through that same area and went to go find that same hotel on the way through. Couldn't find it anywhere. So they went to another hotel and they made 247 francs that night. But they couldn't find the hotel that they stayed at, and they were trying and trying to. So it didn't work out for them at all. But I thought that was interesting how, they're in a small town, find themselves in a old hotel that was very Victorian set up in that time period anyway. And then they couldn't find it again at the end. Hi, Martina.
Yeah, I'd heard that story, but I also heard that they'd actually they enjoyed the place. It was a really nice place.
Yeah,
and one of the husbands had actually taken photos of the wives outside the place. When they got back to England after trying to find it on the way back, they got back. There was no photo of the hotel, and it wasn't on the negatives, on the roller negative.
Wow, it's all cutting out. I think
all the photos that they had taken at that place, none of them showed up on the roll of film.
Yeah.
For all the rest of it, everything, every place else on the trip was all there. So that was kind of neat.
But apologies for that. Everything. Right, I'm going to have to go over to my other laptop because this one's just playing up too much, guys. Sorry, I'll be back as soon as I can. I am watching it on my TV.
No worries.
All right.
Hurry back.
Well, enjoy the show.
Yeah. It was a strange one, that.
And it's just so hey, let's go to northern Spain. They're tired of driving. Let's pull over someplace, grab a hotel, and that's what they get. That would be so amazing. And then to have the photos not turn out,
Oh yeah.
When the
not just not turn out, weren't even on the roll of the negatives.
Yeah.
That's actually similar to a fictional story that I wrote. It has so many similarities with that, and it's the exact same thing. They're having a wander around the place. They're taking photos of everything. It's absolutely amazing. They're meeting staff, blah, 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 blah. Put the photos in to get developed. And the place that develops the photos is like, well, yeah, here's your photos. It's like, oh, yeah, this was an amazing place, blah, blah, blah. As you do when you're picking up photos in the shop back in the day, you have a wee discussion with the server. And the server turned around and says, "You're kidding, right? That place has been abandoned since 1689. And all he had was photos of the ruined version of the place, which is not what he saw. But like I say, it's a fictional story that I wrote that one. Yeah. So,
but I got one kind of similar here. It takes place in Top Withens, which is not too far from you, Ian. It's about 40 kilometers from you, 40 miles.
I know Withens. Like,
but yeah, it's this guy. He was working in a theater in Bradford, and which is not far from the Bronte village of Hayworth. Before the performance, he walked out on the moors, which inspired Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. He had done this walk many times in the past 4 years. And one fine day, he strode out, reaching the ruin known as Top Withens around lunchtime. Here he saw a man in a deerstalker hat with a shotgun, When the man disappeared, Helm went toward the ruin to look for him. On his way, he suddenly found himself looking down at the big Georgian farmhouse. He ran down, and on the door, he peered in the windows to see tables set for lunch. He could smell pigs and hear cattle. When he entered the barn, it was empty. He looked back up toward Top Withens and found that it had vanished. He briefly saw the deerstalker man once more, and now badly spooked, of course. More or less, he ran back to Hayworth, and during the experience, this guy checked out his watch and found that it had stopped at 1:45 p.m. And just before curtain up, he checked it again, and his watch was working just perfectly fine, 5:45. He hadn't rewound it, hadn't touched it or anything at all. But I've looked up the pictures, and Top Withens is just partial walls standing up there in the middle of no place, nothing else around it. And it's supposedly
been to Haworth. It's a lovely area.
It is a beautiful little place.
Very, very, very scenic. Very atmospheric as well.
Even the village itself, there are energy pockets all over that place.
Yes.
How many of them have been created by people like us over the last 200 years going to see where Emily lived?
Quite possible. Quite possible. I mean, there's all sorts of little ones as well. There's one I was reading about in the 70s in Great Yarmouth. Guy went into a shop for stationery, bought envelopes, 36 envelopes for something like £1. But he thought, oh, there must be a theme on because the guy's dressed in Edwardian gear.
Yeah.
Must be some sort of bloody promotional thing. Didn't think anything of it. He went back 3 weeks later. The shop itself was completely modernised. There was a woman serving, not a fella, which is nothing to think about. But when he asked for the envelope, she turned around and says, we've stopped doing those 15 years ago. She said, but you can't have. I bought some 3 weeks ago. Not from here, you didn't. They stopped producing those envelopes 15 years ago. Weird. Yeah. Little things like that must happen to people all the time, but like we've said before, you just dismiss them because your brain says, no, it's not. It doesn't happen. It's not real, that. You've made a mistake.
Yeah.
Weird.
The cat's just insisting on showing her tail to everybody. Sorry. I did find some random little bits. I got one from where was it? One from Oxfordshire and one from Tunbridge Wells. And I've got some that I'm not exactly sure if they're fiction or fact, but it does mention the 2006 Bold Street one. So,
well, there's one I found. Again, was three lads. They were naval cadets, all in the all about 15.
Mm-hmm.
They were, it's down Carl's way, Suffolk way, village called Kersey. They were doing a map reading exercise. They were told to go out, find this village, have a look round, and then come back. Yeah. Tell us what you see. We'll know whether you've been there because we'll know from what you've seen, what you say you've seen. They were all totally strangers to the area. So they set off. They're walking up towards this village. They can hear the bells ringing, the church bells ringing. And as he got into the village, everything went quiet. Church bells stopped. But they started noticing strange things, that there was nothing at all. Nobody moving about. Even the ducks on the pond were just sat there, not moving. There was no one about. There was no cars or anything on the street, which even in those days, in the late 50s, there would have been cars, there would have been telephone lines, TV aerials and the like. But there was nothing. And all the time they were walking around, there was virtually no sound. They looked in through the windows. There's no one in the houses. The houses looked like they were ancient, bloody timber framed and everything.
Yeah.
They looked through one, there was 3 carcasses hung up. They presumed it must have been a butcher's. But the meat was going mouldy. And all the time they were thinking, there's something not right here. There's something just... In the end, it spoke to them that much that they legged it. But as they reached the top of the hill out of the village, all of a sudden they could hear the church bells again. And they looked back, there's smoke coming out of the chimneys. There was a car parked on the street. There's all sorts of different things that weren't there when they were in the village. They went back, reported to whoever it was who was in command. And they were, you're taking a mickey.
Yeah.
But we know you've been there because of some of the things you've seen. But it was years later in the 80s. They were on a telephone call. 2 of them had moved to Australia. 1 of them had moved elsewhere. And they were talking about it. Saying, "Oh, it's weird that." One of them had read a book by, I forget his name, Andrew Mackenzie.
Yeah.
Who's head of the Society of Paranormal Events or something. Who'd written a book. So one of the lads actually got in touch with him and told him the story. And they kept in contact for quite a while. He's over in Australia. This guy's in England. The guy in Australia came over and he went back to the village. And he was telling him, well, that was this and this. And when he actually did some research, they reckon they must have had a time slip back to the medieval times.
You just reminded me of another story from around here, not one of mine.
But they're saying the village itself was as modern as it was in 57. There were, like I said, there was post office. But the other thing that when they were talking about it, recalling it, he says, I can't remember seeing the church when we were walking around. I can't remember seeing that there was a pub when we looked back, but there was no pub there when we walked through.
Sad village.
Yeah.
Gotta have a pub. I mean, I'm in France. I've got a pub 15-minute walk from here. This is nice.
Yeah.
One of the villages around here had always been dry because it was founded by the religious folk of the area. And in 1990, there was a petition got up to open a pub, and all the churchgoers were against it. It opened on a Saturday night. There was hardly anybody went on the Saturday night, but the Sunday it was ram-packed with all the churchgoers who had signed a petition for it not to open.
Right. Standard stuff. I've got one where a guy states that he saw both the past, the very far past, and the future.
Ooh, that's
all
when
in one trip.
I was going to mention that.
I've got a brief.
Everything seems to go back.
Right. And this one, the guy, he saw both, is what he said. So he and his girlfriend at the time were in Bordeaux on vacation. I believe they were from Canada. And they were over in Bordeaux checking it out. His grandparents came from that area. So, why not do a little bit of family stuff? His girlfriend didn't want to go around doing his family stuff. So she would rather have been in Paris instead of Bordeaux. So she's off shopping. And he jumps in. He goes and rents a car for a day or two and then drives up to this town about 20 minutes, 30 minutes out of Bordeaux toward the east. He gets there and he's wandering around the town. It's very, very neat. So he goes in and finds a park bench, and he tells you exactly where the park bench is. He says you can find it on Google Maps, jump in, take a look, and look around and see where he was sitting. So he's sitting on a park bench and kind of fades out a little bit, and he starts hearing strange noises. So he's looking around, and there's no more village. There's nothing around him at all. He's got some hills and vegetation, and he sees in the not too far distant away from where he is, he sees a bunch of people there. They have spears, they have stuff like that with them, and they start running toward this guy, and he's like trying to talk to him, and of course, what language are they talking? But he says that they had slightly larger brows, kind of like Neanderthal. And they were like shaking their spears at him. They weren't trying to hurt him or anything, but then he started running. He turns around and hears this noise behind him, and he gets out of the way, and a mammoth goes running by, and these guys are chasing after the mammoth, and they get him and everything like that. So I'm going, okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting dream. It seems like something you get on the bench. I've never heard of a time slip going back that far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but there have been people living there since the 5th century or before, So why not? Yeah. So he gets in there and how does it go again? He's on the old-timey bridge, and he goes and he sees these folks, and they've got strong brows. These people aren't speaking French at all. He says, "Who are you?" And they look, and then of course this mammoth comes charging out, and he screams dirty words and stuff and gets out of the way. And then he finds himself in a clearing, and the mammoth goes charging by. They go out and they get the mammoth, and then he starts looking around again, and he turns around and everything's changed, and he's in a city, a futuristic city, in the same location where he is right now, but the buildings are tall and thin. Some are like crystalline type. He says that didn't look like any city he's familiar with. I looked around and saw a large wall in the distance. The street that he stood upon was clean, almost shining. He was surrounded by white skyscrapers on almost all sides. People were dressed differently, not too alien, but you'd notice that it was very different. Like had you gone, 200 years in the future or something like that. But so he was startled by a sound that came from above. Swarm of bees, he said he had heard, and it went over. And he thought it was a plane or something up there. But there was just a vehicle up there levitating, going by at incredible speeds. He started walking, and then all of a sudden, he realized he was wet. And people were helping him get out of the river. He had gotten up somehow, was wandering around looking at all this stuff, and had fallen into the river, which was right by where his bench was. So who knows what was going on, but he had to go and get himself checked out psychologically and everything like that, because they thought he was, trying to commit suicide or something in the river. Mm-hmm. But I thought that was an interesting story because it went way back, where he could say, these people were, look like Neanderthal. Yeah. And then went way into the future where, you know, you could obviously tell it was the future. And then, of course, he got wet.
That's a strange one, not just for the going back, how far back he went, but the only stories I've come across have all gone back in time.
Exactly.
I find one that goes forward.
Or
very brief.
the photos. The guy who's at the opening of the bridge in America. And he looks like he's actually in modern clothing. He's got sunglasses on and he looks like he's got a t-shirt on.
Right.
Since been debunked, allegedly, because the glasses were from the 1920s. And what people were assuming was a printed t-shirt is actually a sports sweater with a team from that era.
And there's been a few of them where they've got pictures of people like interacting with the cell phone, you know, like an iPhone or something like that, and they're interacting with that, and in an old picture. And you know, what was it? A mirror that they were holding, interacting. I mean, looking at the mirror, what was it they were actually holding? If it's not what they say it was.
Yeah, it just happens to look like they're holding it.
Right.
There's the one with
especially when you look at
the wristwatch as well.
Somewhere that has cameras for that time period, the ladies are all going to be out with their little compacts.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Touching up the makeup, and that's just holding something there and looking at it. So
yeah. There's the one where the guy's got a wristwatch on, where he shouldn't have wristwatches at that era weren't available.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a few photos, but we can't not being here. We can't get them up.
Yeah. Can I tell you my little, very short future one that I found?
Please.
Yeah, go on.
This is a story from Paul in North Hants in Houghton or Houghton or however you're supposed to pronounce it. In 1973, this happened. At 2:00 in the morning, the 21-year-old was driving home from a dance, passing through the village of Little Houghton, however you're supposed to pronounce it, in North Hants. As Paul drove past the church clock, he lost all sense of time and suddenly found himself on foot in Bromham, about 15 miles away. It's now 7 a.m. He was soaking wet through, even though it wasn't raining, but where was his car? Paul enlisted a friend's help to find his car, which was now in a locked field in Turvey. And what's more, there were no tire tracks in the mud.
It was just sitting there.
Yep. And that's it. He has no idea what happened. What happened in those missing 5 hours? How is he soaking wet? How did he get out of his car? That's actually lifted from a local newspaper. So
stuff like that, you tend to think psychotic episodes.
Well, they actually finished the article with a no, he wasn't drunk.
Yeah, well, he could have had a. This is the thing as to why they happen. Some of the reasons put forward is that they are psychotic episodes, either brought on by drugs or substance abuse. We talked about Bold Street, electromagnetic fields and all that. That's been put forward for some of them.
I've got one that goes against the electromagnetic thing, which I'm not sure if I count it as a time slip, but some aspects of it are. But it's an odd one.
Yeah. just going back to the one you were on about then, no. That goes back to what we were discussing weeks ago with the aliens. Was it an abduction?
Yeah, that's one of the possibilities that came into my head as well.
Yeah.
And they forgot where they picked him up and they dumped him somewhere else away from where they dumped his car.
Oh, yeah.
Why would they even take his car?
Yeah.
Why not just take him from where he was?
Maybe it's like us looking at a Tonka toy.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah, possibly. Put it up on this hill where it's obvious.
Oh, but that's going into the alien thing. Yeah, I came across a story about that where the lad was found on the top of a coal scrag heap with no sign of how he got there, and he was perfectly clean too. But again, that's going into the alien abduction thing, so we're going to skip that one.
I know there's been a lot of times. I used to drive between California and Arizona and Texas a lot. Or when my son was going to school up in Indiana, I made a couple of trips driving out to Indiana to go visit and do a few things like that. And
yes,
I
can hear you faintly, Carl. Sorry.
But doing these long road trips in the U.S., you've got these long straight roads that go on forever and ever and ever. And I found myself a number of times. It's probably not a time slip at all. It's probably some fugue I was in or whatever. But you're driving along, you get the music playing, or listening to stories. That's what I usually do. Is I throw on an audiobook and go. But I'll be driving along, knowing I've got 7 or 8 hours until my next stop. And I'll be going along, and all of a sudden, before I even realize what's going on, I'm at my next stop.
Mm-hmm.
There is a natural phenomena for that, Joe.
There probably is.
It's been proven. It's called alpha mode. I've done an awful lot of stuff with behavioural safety and things. And it's one of those, your brain writes a program. So you're doing it all the time. You're doing it constantly. You just go into that mode. And you can be driving along. I've done it myself hundreds of times. Oh, shit, I'm here.
Yeah.
And it is. Your brain, you think about driving. You got 3 pedals, you got a gear lever, you got a steering wheel, you got 3 mirrors. And when you're first learning to drive, it's Christ, what am I doing? So your brain writes a program.
Yeah.
So you then do it automatically. It becomes subconscious.
Yeah, when I'm driving,
you're automatically carrying on, just doing what you're doing. What's your driving like when you see blue lights coming up behind you? Your driving generally goes to rat shit because you think, oh shit, what speed am I doing? You start driving with your conscious brain then.
Yeah. I know when I'm driving, I'll go along and I don't realize it, but I can tell you how many cars are like behind me in the area, like on the road. I can tell you there's 3 cars behind me. One's blue, one's red, and one's white. And I don't remember looking at the mirrors to look.
No, because you're doing it subconsciously.
But yeah, I mean, I go for hours and hours, and then all of a sudden, staying on the road, doing my thing. All the turns, all the everything is right there. And then you sort of wake up.
I did it I used to work on the motorways. And for years, our depot was at the bottom of Barton Bridge. You go over Barton Motorway Bridge and our depot used to be at the bottom of it. And I used to go out and do audits of the other motorway depots on our network. And we actually moved up to West Horton, which is about 10 miles away. I was out with the client driving along, we've been up to Milne Road Depot, which is about 20 odd mile away, coming back on the motorway, chatting away like we are. And the next thing, I look to the side of me, I'm going over Barton Bridge. He says, what the bleeding hell am I doing here? And Ken, the lad who was with me, just turned around. He said, I thought you had something on. He said, I didn't like to say. He said, we were chatting. He says, and you just came because I've been doing it for donkey's years.
Yeah.
My autopilot says we're going to Barton, we're going back to the depot. So I had to turn around and bloody head all the way back.
Yeah, I had a job that I'd been going to that same building for 23 years. So it's like from my first house that I had there, it was just by rote. I knew exactly where I was going. I knew what was going on. You know, you do it every day, sometimes 7 days a week, and it all depends on what was going on. So yeah, I could see that definitely.
Yeah. Like I say, it's called alpha mode. Mm-hmm. One thing I will say though, if you ever get stopped by the police for speeding, do not say I was in alpha mode. No. Because they are fully aware of what alpha mode is, and all that's telling the copper is you speed regularly.
I just tell them if I get stopped, I just tell them I had my cruise control on. So, you know, if it bumped, it bumped.
A story from Louisa Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Louisa. I live in Norfolk. There was one story of a woman who lived in Norwich. She went to sleep in her flat even, and woke up in the middle of a field near the coast 2 days later with no idea of how she got there. And she was fully clothed.
Huh.
Yeah, see, I'm going back to the aliens for that, Ian.
Yeah. I don't know whether that's a time slip or an alien. It could be the same thing. I think with some of these time slips, though, as well, with what we were talking about the other day, the fact that time isn't linear.
Right. Yeah. It's either all happening at once
it's
or
all
it wraps
happening
around
at once,
itself.
and it's all wrapped like string. It's all bound in on itself, and you get.
Perhaps with the time slip is when you're crossing over one of the knots where all these bits of string interconnect. So you could be in 3 or 4 different places and times at the same time, and everything gets thrown awry.
Yeah. Very strange one.
Yeah.
Cal keeps dropping in and out.
He keeps trying. The computer's just not playing.
Frustrating.
I found one from a member of the public in Australia. This one, she has a best friend in America from California who she counts as a sister. The Californian lady came to visit them in the Australian winter to enjoy some cool air for a few weeks because she hates the heat of California. She brought her winter PJs, which were a blue background with billowing, smiling white clouds. A very eye-catching outfit, apparently. As the Australian lady doesn't have a clothes dryer, she always hangs her laundry outside. And those PJs flapping in the wind always made her smile because of the cheery pattern. So that was June 2011. And her American sister returned to the States in September. In early December, she had where have I gone? I've lost it now. Where'd it go? She had a strange feeling that she could hear her American sister's voice and movements in the guest room. But of course, that was impossible. She was thousands of miles away in California. And she's put the time slip occurred shortly afterwards. I was in the backyard hanging washing on a glorious summer day, and then the sky darkened, an icy wind began to blow, and the environment altered completely. From lush growth all around, suddenly the trees were back to winter with bare boughs. The flowers and butterflies vanished, and what did she see? But those blue and white PJs on the washing line. She stood very still and stared, unable to comprehend what on earth was happening and wondering if she was hallucinating. This lasted about 4 minutes. And then abruptly, she was back in the summertime.
Right, I think I'm back again.
Yep.
You're welcome.
And no cloud patterned pages on the line. Early next morning, around 2 o'clock, she was awoken from sleep with a sense of shock, her heart thumping, finding it difficult to breathe. And as she's trying to sort her breathing out, she hears a sad voice in the dark room. Your sister is dead. She turned on the light. Nobody was around. She felt very restless. It took a while to settle down. At noon that same day, she got a phone call from California telling her that her friend had suddenly died. She was even more shocked when she found that her friend had died at 2 a.m. Australian time. So
really sorry about tonight.
That's all right.
It's not stories like that. Yeah.
Is it crisis apparition taking in a time slip, or is it this whole crossed over knot effect that we were talking about a minute ago?
Could well be, because you...
That sounds more like a crisis apparition.
I'm gonna
combination.
Am I
just
coming
nip
through?
out.
Okay.
No, look at that.
I am, yeah. Right. I'm so. I think he's gone to the gentleman's room. Oh, it's going. I've been watching news on the YouTube on my TV. I have no idea what the problem. No word of lie. I've streamed about 4 lots of gaming. I've not had one single problem. The second I've come in here and look at all the problems I've had, I really feel embarrassed.
That's all right. Technical difficulties happen to everybody.
They do.
And I'm literally, I'm not getting enough. I think I'm going to have to leave this one to you 3 because my laptop is just literally not working. I don't think
I'm meant to be in with a hammer. I found if you tap things with hammers, they tend to work best.
So, it tells me this one's not meant for me because I'm having nothing but problems. I did throw the other laptop across the room.
I hope that was the old one.
It's now sat half in pieces on my armchair. So, but I've literally had no problems. I've worked my balls off since 3 a.m. Friday morning to try and get the U. So I think I'm just going to have to buy a bullet and pay out the £100 and get the laptop fixed. So, I won't mind. Where is it? This one is less than a month old and it's not worth shit. I have been watching and I've been really actually enjoying it. I'm a bit annoyed because Ian got to the Kersey case before I could.
Well, you all sound so healthy.
But the Kersey case is very. I haven't spent much time in there. I've been to Kersey twice. Oh, here we go. Laptop again. I've been to Kersey twice, and it's like a town, a little village lost in time. It is. I can imagine something like that. But one theory about the Kersey case is the kids read out where they was meant to be on the map for their training, but that area of East Anglia and Suffolk is used a lot in movies. He walked into an unused movie set.
That's by Hadley. Yeah, just to the west of Ipswich. And it's a very little village. It's not very big at all.
But yeah, so I'm a bit annoyed that Ian got to the Kersey one before I did.
Yeah, it's the three lads, three naval. I was hoping you'd be on for that. Because, like I say, it can't be that far from you, surely.
I was. Well, hold on, I'll show you. Oh, where did I put it? I'll put it back under there. I've unfortunately completely smashed my laptop because I got paid. I got annoyed with it, so there we go. I'm gonna have to just bite the bullet and pay out money. And stop being tight-fisted. This one's meant to be for you three. That's why I think I'm having such technical problems. So, but it's literally, I'm literally having no luck whatsoever. No, I'm having no luck whatsoever. I'll keep trying to work on the technical problems, and I'll carry on watching news because what you're coming up with is absolutely brilliant. I mean, what you're talking about.
Well, you do seem to be. I was just going to say you do seem to be actually staying fairly stable now, but you've frozen again.
Yeah. I just honestly don't get what it is. The other laptop, like I said, I've had that a fortnight actually. I bought that not last live stream, the one before, and it will not connect. The one that I'm trying to connect on now is one of my older ones, and I'm having nothing but problems. The one between the two of them, I've literally just smashed on the floor because I'm sick of it. I just don't get on with technology. I really don't. So what I think I'll do, it's not stream. It won't stream on TikTok, even though I've had no problems literally the whole week. So I think this one might have to be just a YouTube one for you guys. But it has been what you've been. Some of the stories. There's a couple there that you've all mentioned that I know of, but there's some there I've never heard of, and they're really interesting. But yeah, as I was saying, when you went off to wherever you went, Ian, the Kersey one. One theory is that the cadets had followed the maps like they'd said, and everything they'd said was correct, but where they'd actually gone was an old movie or TV set, because that part of East Anglia was used for it's been. So there's a theory that it could be they actually walked through an old movie set or an old TV show set. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
That would tie in with the fact that, from what they said, things were mouldy and everything. But what it doesn't negate is the sound stopping.
Yeah, the church bells and all that going on.
The church bells and everything stopping. And as soon as they got out of the village and they started up again, they could hear them.
I'm just going to let Madam
I think it's finally decided to settle. Tina's there. I know Tina's there. I saw your message. Sorry, Tina, sweetie. I will PM you when I get the chance. I've had nothing. I've been nothing but problems with my technology today. I don't know if it's the heat. I don't know if it's because, well, this laptop that I've just smashed, I paid like 400 quid for it. So I'd lost my temper with it. But yeah, no, that Kersey case is, I've been to Kersey twice, not for extended period. I think the longest I was there was about half an hour, 40 minutes. It is a place lost in time. So I can see why a lot of TV shows like Poldark used there back in the 70s or the 80s. I don't know if you remember, I think it was Richard Chamberlain done a TV show about Dick Turpin.
Yeah.
Even though some of that was done in episodes, some of that was actually done around Kersey sort of area as well. The butcher shop that the boys said that they saw, apparently there's 3 oxen there, but from the descriptions of the buildings and things they had, there have only been meat used in the village for a special occasion, because back in the time period they explained, vast majority of people were vegetarian because meat was such a scarcity. Yeah. So
that would tie in with.
They've estimated it to be about the 1300s.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, medieval time, but it's a strange one.
Yes, it is.
Like I said, that would tie in with them walking into a film set, as you say.
Yeah.
But there's other bits, like you said, the noises and everything.
Yeah.
And the fact that when they got outside the village and looked back, they could see cigarette smoke. They could see smoke coming from the chimneys. I don't even smoke, and that's why we don't like you smoking on TikTok.
I've not even been able to get us onto TikTok because everything's gone wrong. I've barely smoked all day, and in this period of time that you've been doing that live, I must have gone for about 6 because I was so stressed.
Yeah.
Kersey, I've just had a quick look on it. Vast majority of season 1 and 2 of Lovejoy was filmed there. Magpie Murders, a Netflix show in 2023 called The Strays. The 1969 film with what's his name? Not Christopher Lee, not Vincent Price.
Peter Cushing?
Peter Cushing, that's the one. The Witchfinder General from 1969 was actually filmed in Kersey, and that would match the description.
Yeah, but the way I heard it, the story, it was 1957 when it actually happened, when they were cadets, because they were 15 at the time.
Yeah,
I've actually written down about this one. That's the Versailles one. Yeah, it was 1957. Yeah, so that'd been way before the film.
Yeah.
Oh right. So okay.
I don't know when the film set was built, but
I wouldn't have thought it would have been 12 years beforehand.
No.
Apparently, some of the Meerkat adverts were filmed in Kersey as well. And a few TV shows. But yeah, it has been used quite a few times over the years.
Yeah.
Apparently, Spot River House at Kersey is where they filmed Lovejoy.
All right.
So
Louisa,
yeah.
She's put. Chris has just told me about a man in Leicester that had his family in the city, and when his wife got a call saying that he was in Peterborough. I said that sounds more like a crisis apparition.
Funny enough, Louisa saying that and you mentioning that, I was flicking through some of the paranormal things on TikTok earlier. And there was a young black guy, must have been mid-30s. He'd gone and picked his daughter up from school, drove home with her, talked about a day at school, what she'd been doing, this, that, and the other. And on the drive home, the school phoned up and said, well, your daughter's not been picked up. Where are you? And he's like, well, she's actually sat here next to me in the car. And he's gone, well, obviously you've got the wrong child. The school described the child, and they knew the child. They described the child, and it was exactly the same child that was in the car. So the dad was like freaked out what the hell was going on. Stopped the car.
Body snatchers.
He looked round, and the girl that was his daughter was sat in the car. So he wanted to know what was going on. So he turned the car around, went back to the school to say, look, there's been a hell of a mistake here. Some kid's obviously been mistaken. Walked in, and his daughter was in the headmistress's office.
Body snatchers.
Yeah.
That was kind of weird one. But no, the Kersey, as Ian was saying, the Kersey case is a fascinating one.
Yeah. Just what you were saying there about that one, about the kid and that. And what we were saying about crisis apparitions.
Yeah.
One I've just reading here. Sebastian Garda was travelling to visit his dying granddad in hospital when he had a call, what he calls a time slip. He told the paper that he was walking along and he saw a mysterious figure standing nearby. And as he got closer to him, it revealed it was his granddad, but a lot younger, like he was in his 30s or 40s.
That's interesting.
Fancy meeting you here and everything will be okay. Tell your dad I'll be fine, the man said before disappearing.
Nice.
Now, that comes across as time slip and I don't know.
And crisis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my granny, when I saw my granny, wasn't a crisis apparition, but it was that sort of thing.
Yeah.
There was one that I found. I don't know if any of you have heard about it. But it was the castle found in Florida. It was 3 young children playing around the age between 3 and 5. They were playing in their front yard. The kid's mum was in the kitchen talking to her sister who had come over to visit. The kids were in the garden. 4 teenagers approached them and said, "Do you want to see something magical? We found a castle." And with a bit of hesitation, the kids followed them. I was walking for about 30 or 40 minutes. Nowadays, that'd be alarm bells everywhere.
Yeah.
Apparently, walked into this forest in Florida. There was a massive castle there, all bright sparkles and lights around it and clouds and, just like hotel sort of stuff. I think they spent about 10, 15 minutes there. The teenagers stayed and the kids run, but it only took them 2 or 3 minutes to get home, which, looking back on it as adults, they thought that was weird. They went to look for it. They've looked up records and everything. And that location, there's never, ever been any buildings there at all. That is on record.
Cool.
So was that a time slip? Was it a slip in different dimensions? Was it missing time alien abduction of some kind? But that was in Florida.
Again, that ties in with what we were saying before about time being lineal, or whether it's time raveled. We've talked about multiple universes before. And the old Chinese saying, for every major decision you take in life, party branches off and goes another way. So there's all multiple universes all around us.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what time slip is. You slip into another universe.
I got a more local story on it, which I had forgotten all about. This one I use when I do my tours. For those that don't know, yes, I run Elgin Ghost Tours if you're visiting the northeast of Scotland. There's a building that used to be a supermarket, but now it's council offices. And what's now the front door of the council was the window for the in-store cafe. It never really worked as a supermarket. It was only really there for like 10, 11 years, and it was 4 different names in that time. While it was still open, this lady emailed me. I'm told you're the one that collects the freaky stories. Yeah, that'll be me. I'm like, what do you want to tell me? And she's like, can we meet for coffee? Because I don't want to write it down. Now, this happens a lot when people have paranormal experiences. They don't want to put it in writing so that they can then deny it.
Yeah.
Depending on what company they're hanging around with and so on. So,
my marriage certificate.
Yeah. So we met for coffee, and she told me that her and 17 pals were out. She was at college at the time. They had been out till throwing out time, went back to somebody's house, carried on drinking. 6 o'clock in the morning, they all decided they were hungry, but nobody was sober enough to cook. And at that point in time here, nothing was open for 24 hours back then.
You're telling me people in Scotland get drunk, Linda?
Just a bit.
I'm not going to believe any of that.
No, what I wouldn't have believed if they got sober.
Well, I do have to say I have drunk myself sober on a couple of occasions back when I used to.
Me too.
She says what they did was they counted up what they had left and decided they had enough to get the Sunday brunch offer in the in-store cafe, and it opened at 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So they lived on the outskirts of town, and being that most of them were half cut and completely wellied, it took them nearly an hour and a half to walk to the supermarket anyway. On a good day, it's a 40-minute walk if you're doing a decent speed. So they did it in an hour and a half, and they got there and they ordered the food, and they're all humming into their food. Sorry, they're all digging into their food. That's a wee bit too much localese there. Digging into their food. And this one lady decides she needs the loo. So she goes off through the bathrooms, opens the door, and they're not there. And I'm like, what's not there? She's like, there's no toilets there. I'm like, okay, what did you see? Stone flagstone floor, a single wooden bed, which wasn't even wide enough to be a modern single bed, and a table with a candle and a cross on it. And that's all that was in there. And I'm like, what did you do? Yeah. She's like, well, I stared at it for a couple of seconds thinking, am I that drunk I'm hallucinating? And then thought, oh, whatever, and walked off.
Yeah.
She got halfway down the
corridor. You were going to say she went to the loo anyway.
No, she got halfway down the corridor and then thought, no, I really do need to go. And she went back and she opened the door again, and there it was, 3 cubicles, 3 sinks, and a great big mirror, as it normally would be. But she says to me, I have no idea what I saw. So my first stop was the local archives. And I was able to acquire, with the librarian's help, the blueprints for the in-store cafe and the ladies' bathrooms from the company that had it built. And then I got the map of the footprint of the old convent, which was an abbey back in the days, but now it's a convent, and overlaid the two using an acrylic back in the days when you would go and get your acrylic print-offs and stuff. Well, that lady's bathroom fits perfectly.
Oh, I remember them, yeah.
Yeah. That lady's bathroom fits perfectly inside one of the rooms of the sanctuary block of the abbey. So somehow she saw a room. She saw a room that hasn't existed since the early 1500s. Have no idea how, but it fits perfectly. Now, the weirdy bit of this is, said bathroom still exists even though the building has changed use. When it first opened as the council offices, it was a staff bathroom. And the ladies used to tell me that they went to the toilet in threes because they were scared. Because there was a shadow.
Women do that anyway.
In pubs, but not at work. In pubs, but not at work, you know. And they said there was a shadow outside that was about 6 foot, all in black, with a big hood over. Now, if back in the day you had somebody say to you, get thee to the monastery, get thee to a nunnery to escape a horrible medieval style situation, somebody would be posted guard on the sanctuary block that you were staying in to make sure nobody kidnapped you and forced you into the horrible situation.
Yeah. Right.
And going by the fact that 15 out of the 25 staff in that office have told me the shadow's there, that poor guy's still on duty for the 1400s. He needs a cup of tea. But I don't know.
That'd be my luck. I'll die and find out I've still got to work.
Yeah, me and all. So like one of my colleagues said, one of my friends said to me that my personal hell is I'll have to do the one tour that I really hate doing every day for the rest of eternity. Would be my personal hell. But yeah, I've no idea how she was able to see a room that hasn't existed since the 1500s. But she described it perfectly to me. And having seen the modern day accommodations in the local monastery and in the local convent, they haven't changed much, except they now have carpets. But it's still pretty much the same kind of idea.
Yeah.
So would love to know how she was able to see that. She wants to know how she was able to see that. But I've never been able to give her an explanation.
Again, it goes back to what we were saying before about explanations for why these things happen.
Yeah.
Alcohol, as we all know, is a great
Yes, it is.
loosener of inhibitions.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all had sessions where we can't believe what the hell we saw.
Mm-hmm.
Is that,
and sometimes we're the only ones that can see them.
Well, yeah, pink elephants. I've never seen pink elephants myself, but I have seen 6 foot black polo mints. But yeah, could it be a case?
I've apologized to a guy in full Highland dress that was 6'4" and a redhead, and nobody else in the room could see him. But I bumped into him, and trying to keep it clean here, I can tell you his wife would have been a very happy lady. But nobody else in the room could see him at all. But I bumped into him heavy enough to notice that. Which is why I turned around and apologized, because I thought it was a real person, but nobody else could see him.
Wow.
That's why I don't drink.
Apologize or slips in your number. You only apologised when you realised he wasn't actually there.
So I've got one here from New York City. One place it says it's an urban legend. The other one says that it's a documented time slip. Who knows? But I like this story. In mid-June of 1951, about 11:15 p.m., passerby in New York City's Times Square noticed a man of about 29 years of age, dressed in the fashion of the late 19th century. No one saw how he got there. He was disoriented and confused, standing in the middle of an intersection, and he was hit by a taxi cab driver and fatally injured. Before people were able to intervene, he died. The officials at the morgue searched his body and found the following items in his pocket: a copper token for beer worth 5 cents, bearing the name of a saloon which was unknown even to older residents of the area, a bill for the care of a horse and the washing of a carriage drawn by a livery stable on Lexington Avenue, which was not listed in any address book. Wow. $70 in old banknotes, the old handwritten ones. business cards with the name Rudolph Fence and an address on Fifth Avenue. A letter sent to this address in June of 1876 from Philadelphia, and a medal for coming in third place in a three-legged race. None of these objects showed any sign of aging. Missing Persons Department at NYPD tried using the information to identify the man. He found the address on Fifth Avenue was part of a business. Its current owner didn't know anything about this guy, Rudolph Fence. Fence's name was not listed in the address book. His fingerprints were not recorded anywhere. No one had reported him missing. The investigator continued the investigation and finally found a Rudolph Fence Jr. in the telephone book from 1939. This guy spoke to the residents of the apartment building at the listed address who remembered Fence and described him as a man of about 60 years old who worked nearby. After his retirement, he moved to an unknown location in 1940, contacted the bank. He was told that Fence had died 5 years before, but his widow was still alive and lived in Florida. So the investigator contacted the widow and learned that her husband's father, Rudolph Fence, had disappeared in 1876, age 29. He had left the house for an evening walk and never returned. I thought that was interesting.
Whoa.
Yeah,
So-
that is.
Yeah, he disappeared and, like you say, went through that wormhole, time
Right.
hole.
Right. And then all of a sudden, he's gone. Nobody knows what happened to him. Well, he was hit by a cab in Times Square. So, I really like that story, whether it's an urban legend or an actual, time.
Again, I think over time they grow legs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But I kind of like that story. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like you say, it ties in with him vanishing.
Right.
Time he vanished and then reappearing.
Yeah.
It's
corroborated, evidence.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's a weird one.
I've got one that's actually billed as the time slip terror.
I've got time slip terror. I was going to do one. It's not the one with the builders.
This one happened before World War II, but they can't find the exact date. Happened to an undergraduate student, Arthur Frewen. He was spending Easter at some barracks near Helvick Head in Ireland and had decided on this particular evening to sleep out in the open. Not long after he fell asleep, he woke up because he was feeling cold and he noticed that there was a mist all around him. He was in total darkness. He decided to try and find some shelter. He noticed a light of what he thought was a cottage, made his way to the light, and as he got closer, he found it was a ship. It was from the open hatch of the ship. So he looked down the hatch and saw an older man who was mending a fishing net over the table. The man saw Arthur and beckoned him inside the boat. He gave him a bowl of soup and said that Arthur could spend the night in the cabin at the end of the boat. The man took Arthur to the cabin and left him. Arthur had his sister's red school scarf on him that she gave him for luck. So he decided to hang it on the cabin door, basically so he knew which door to go into. As he was doing this, he heard the man walking back up the passageway towards the room, and he suddenly felt threatened, so he bolted the cabin door. The man was trying to open the door to the cabin whilst shouting, "Open the door and let me in." Arthur was filled with fear, so looked at how to escape. He ended up smashing the skylight and fled from the boat. When he finally got back to the barracks, he told the guards and wanted them to go back to the boat in the daylight. When enough guards had agreed to go with him, they made their way to where the boat was. When they got there, they all saw the boat, but it was an old wreck. But it was clearly the boat Arthur had been on several hours before. The timbers of the boat were slimy and there were many rats scurrying around. As they all looked over the boat, Arthur found his sister's red school scarf still hanging on the cabin door. It wasn't until later on that Arthur was informed that 70 years previous, the owner of that boat had been hanged for the murder of an undergraduate, which is what he was at the time this thing happened to him.
Wow.
So the fact that he's found the scarf, I thought that was quite a cool one.
Well, yeah, he's found the scarf, but he's also found his way back to the boat, which is there.
Yeah. But now with all the wood gone slimy and full of rats.
Oh, yeah.
70 years, yeah.
Cheers, Perry. How you doing? Oh, we lost Ian now.
Oh, here it comes.
There we go.
No, I don't know what happened then.
Oh, I'm done. That's it. I want a time slip back to the 1970s when technology didn't fucking exist.
Why not the 2050s when it's the damn sight better?
Yeah, well,
and bring it back.
Oh,
the one I was going to do one day.
Guys, I really can't. I can only wholeheartedly apologise. I've literally had no problems the whole week. Well, since Friday, I've had no problems. Perfect live streams. Last night when I was doing a bit of gaming, I had over 300 people watching me. There was a 15-20 second delay, but no problems at all. I even done a live stream today out in the garden, like I've been doing every morning to try and big up for tonight. I done a live stream of gaming this afternoon just to make sure everything was perfect. And dead on 8 o'clock, everything went wrong.
You used up all of your time for the internet that past few days.
Yeah.
It's just gone. There is no more time.
In fairness, I have been doing a lot on the internet to try and get the YouTube channel sorted lately, haven't I? So I've been watching what you've been saying. I've had it on the TV, so while I've been trying to get fixed, I've been watching. Some of the stories are fascinating.
Yeah, they are.
You know, it makes you wonder that would it be put down as stone tape theory? Could it be put down as just stone tape theory?
I think some of them potentially.
Yeah,
some of them would be, I guess.
Right. What I've managed to do.
Can I just throw in a little bit there, though?
Yeah, go for it.
For those watching who haven't come across the stone tape theory, basically, if you've done the same thing so many times during your life, you might be recorded into the building. Some folk would be, how is that even possible? Well, sandstone contains, quartz, silicon, and iron.
Same as granite. Granite does the same
granite
thing.
as well. Yeah. And quartz, silicon, and iron are present in videotapes, audio cassettes, CDs. So if we can use them to build the modern version of the recorder, who says the building you're living in or working in isn't acting as a recording room?
Yeah.
That's what I keep saying. In 150 years' time, there's going to be a crazy person with crazy hair wandering around trying to open the buildings that I work at, because I've done it for 23 years.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's what the stone tape theory is in brief for those that haven't come across it before.
They also, if I remember rightly, they also say, I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation, but brownstone supposedly can absorb stone tape theory in brownstone. So
I haven't looked at the chemical makeup of brownstone.
No.
See, now I've got Guns N' Roses, Mr. Brownstone stuck in my head.
Yes. As soon as he said that,
that's a different type of brownstone, that is.
No. Yeah. But
it's been a nightmare. I've had to go. I'm having to talk to you guys through StreamYard on one laptop, I'm able to keep an eye on it on my phone, and I'm able to stream to TikTok on another laptop. So it's ridiculous. The laptop I'm talking to you on is only, I don't know, I've been here 2 years in November. I got this February last year, the one that I'm on. And this one here, like I said, was only like 2 weeks ago that I bought this, and that's already playing up. So I don't know if the ghost of the guy that died in here is around and you don't like technology or something, but it's getting on my nerves.
The last one I bought last year literally only just made it the year, and that was a cheap budget one. This year I splashed out when we
wasn't the budget one.
After doing the first one that I had to do on my phone.
Yeah.
I had to go and splash out, but by going and splashing out, it means I can continue doing one of my other jobs that I haven't been able to do for a year on the old laptop. So,
well, yeah, there is that.
Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, but the thing is, this one I'm talking to you on StreamYard on cost me like 450 quid, so it's not exactly cheap.
Mm.
You know, when there was the when I gave out that budget loan to everyone around the country a couple of years back, because the laptop I originally had, I bought back in 2009. I've been using my phone ever since then. I thought, you know what, that's there. I'm clear of debts at the moment. I used the money that came in to pay off the last of my debts that I had at the time, and I had some money left, so that's why I bought it. But why, you know? And it's not a particularly. It's a HP laptop, so it shouldn't be this bad.
Yeah.
A battery should not, because I'll move the mouse and it will literally select the whole page, and the page will move around, or it'll turn itself off. Or
that's what my old mum was doing.
I thought it was the mouse pad, but apparently when the battery goes, it causes that.
There is a way to change the pace and everything of it in settings, but
I've tried all of that.
Yeah.
I'm useless with mouse pads. I always have a trackball.
I think
I'm useless with mouse pads. And there isn't room to have a proper mouse, but a trackball's easier.
To get this repaired, to get the new battery, and including like the labour costs and all that, was going to be 130 quid. The other laptop was only 149 quid. So I thought I may as well pay the extra 20 and get. And to be honest with you, I'm willing to this minute throw that at the wall as well.
Mm-hmm.
So because I literally loaded the computer, I downloaded one of our live streams, which was like about a 2 hour. I think it was a cryptid one, and just by downloading that one video, it completely filled the memory.
Yeah.
Your hard drive wasn't very big on that anyway.
No,
clearly not.
No.
The one that I'm talking to you through StreamYard on, I've got so much on there, it's unbelievable. You know, it would take up reams of discs. I must have at least 7,000 or 8,000 photos of the kids on there. And I've still got, it's still only 3/4 full.
Yeah.
I daren't touch the pad right this moment. I've got it a fair distance away from me. But anyway, back to these time slips in kind of fucking technology, excuse my language. What was the one? The Lorena Garcia Gordo case. Do you know that one?
Doesn't ring a bell.
This is not sure if this is a time slip or she feels she went into a different dimension, possibly a different dimension. She woke up one morning. The bedding that was on was different to what she went to bed in, and she thought that was strange. You know, and you would do, but she thought that was strange. She thought, well, I ain't got time now. I've got to get ready for work. She got ready for work and went off to work. She drove the 15 miles to work where she was. She walked into the building, walked to her office, got to the door, went to open the door, and it was locked. and she thought, hold on, what's going on here? And it had a different name on the door. And she'd worked in this building for 20 years. And she thought, I'm tired. This morning kind of shook me up. Maybe I got off on the wrong floor. She looked. No, she was on the correct floor. So she got somebody to open up the door for her. Went about her daily work. She'd not long split up with. She'd been dating a guy for 7 years, and she split up with him 6 months beforehand. And she'd been dating another guy. I think his name was Antonio or something. She'd been seeing him for about 6 months or 7 months. She'd met his son. They'd gone on picnics together. They got on miniature holidays, like weekends away, all three of them. She phoned him up to try and say, like, I've had a really weird day. Do you want to come and see me, sort of things, because she felt freaked out. And the number she got, the person that answered the phone had never ever heard of this person. And the house and the phone number, they said, we've lived here for 3 or 4 decades, however long it was. I can't remember how long it was. But they'd lived in the house 3 or 4 decades. They said, this person has never ever lived in this house. And she was starting to get really freaked out. She went to talk to her mum, and the guy that she'd split up with previously, she'd had a 7-year relationship with, happened to be at her mum's, because they was very close. And her mum, her sister, and this guy said, we've never split up. The longest we've not seen each other is a couple of days when you've been busy working. As far as everyone in the house was concerned, they were still in a relationship. Yet she clearly remembers 6 or 7 months with this other guy and his son. She actually paid for a private detective to look for this person, thinking, like, what the hell's going on? There is no record of this guy whatsoever. There's no record of his son whatsoever. So she went and got a psych evaluation. Nothing wrong whatsoever. She got scanned for brain tumours and that sort of thing. Nothing whatsoever. She spoke to her mum and her sister and her dad about remembering having an operation, because when she'd gone to get the brain scans, it reminded her of an operation that she'd had when she was younger. And her family were, you've never, ever had an operation in your life.
Oh.
She looked down. She'd had her appendix out as well. She looked down. She no longer had the appendix scar. And that's about all I've been able to find out about it. So
I would say that's really a dimension shift rather than just time.
Yeah, it was just a very. Let's see if there was anything else I missed out. That was it. When she looked, all posts on her Facebook and like things like that that she'd done were still on there. After the time she walked in to her mum's and her ex-boyfriend was there, she went back to look at the posts on Facebook and this, that, and the other, wherever she went, and they no longer existed. They'd all gone. And these were photos and videos of her with this guy she'd had this short relationship with.
Like you said, that sounds more like
dimensional shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as we've said, is that what a time slip is?
Yeah.
Could Nessie be a time slip?
Into another dimension.
Could Nessie be a time slip?
In theory, I would say yeah, but to what though? That's the thing, because the first documented sighting of Nessie, St. Columba.
Right.
It wasn't even in Loch Ness, it was in the river.
Yes, yeah. And if I remember rightly, the river I think the deepest part of the river only goes about 12 or 13 feet.
I honestly don't know. I would have to look it up.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up too.
I should be able to remember, because I've got a Loch Ness video that I created on there that's had about 12,500 views. So I did the research in, and I can't remember it for the life of me now. But
yeah, because I mean the canal through the Great Glens was used for like freight transport and stuff. And there are bits of where the canal coincides with the river and yada, yada, yada. But the only well, the very first one, as I say, Columba, it was in the river. It was nowhere near the loch. It was just outside of the city. Now, if you get to Inverness now, you've got a good 45-minute drive and before you're anywhere near within sight of the loch.
Yeah.
Right.
So
down by Drogheda and all of that.
That's it. Congratulations. You're the first one with that accent I've ever heard pronounce it correctly.
I'm not even going to try.
A neat little town.
Even the people who live there just call it Drum. So
I'm wondering how much of we all know the eDNA test has been done. It's been proven that there's nothing unusual.
99% algae.
I know there was like a species of eel that they didn't know existed, but it's not a plesiosaur because there's just too many things about the plesiosaur. Unless it sounds good, but plesiosaur couldn't lift its head up out of the water.
Exactly.
The way Nessie says. They were air breathers, so you'd see it hourly, not every 5-10 years.
Yeah.
So, but
we see the orcas more regularly than we see.
Yeah.
The orcas have been spotted pretty much every week in the last couple of months.
Yeah. It says here the river Ness is about 6 miles long, and it is between 30 and 100 centimeters deep.
So it's not exactly.
You ain't gonna get a Nessie in that.
No,
probably not.
Tadpole,
unless it's
maybe
it's a little model.
I mean, it sounds like it's nothing dodgy, but having seen it on a what they call a spate day, where it's overflowing and running high and running fast, I wouldn't try to paddle in there because it's too fast.
Yeah.
It's too fast. You get swept off your feet within seconds.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's because it's so relatively short compared to some of the other rivers up here.
But one reason I said about that is it's unlikely to be a time slip that by sheer coincidence there happens to be a monster there when you time slip. But could that potentially be a dimensional slip?
I think it's more likely to be a portal.
Possibly, yeah.
I believe that that's why a Bigfoot gets around.
Well, there is claims of like portals Bigfoot being seen going through portals and UFOs around at the same time as Bigfoot sightings as well.
Yeah.
And apparently around Bigfoot sightings, there's often a lot of owl sightings. There's often a lot of owls around when there's a Bigfoot around. So that kind of jumps into the biblical thing because Lilith was known as the screech owl.
So is my ex-wife.
I thought your ex-wife was Lilith, Joe.
Well, Lilith is the original ex-wife. She's Adam's first wife.
Exactly.
She's the very first ex-wife.
Not according to the Gospels and everything. She doesn't exist.
For 400 years. For 400 years after the event, the images of the Garden of Eden, it was a serpent with the top half of a female body, and it was depicted as Lilith.
That explains a lot. Mate used to call his ex-wife a snake with tits.
I can only apologise again for the technical problems I've had tonight.
Yeah, no worries.
But I've got it all on the TV, and I've been watching it on the TV, but I've been trying to get in, and some of the stories is like mind blowing.
Well,
they really are.
We're talking about time slips and ghosts. Is that what ghosts are? We've spoken about this before. Are we ghosts to them?
Yeah. We
see them and they're interacting, and it's.
Is that your ex then?
Yeah, it's just like her.
Sheds her skin.
That image hasn't got quite as many wrinkles, Joe.
That's because she sheds her skin every.
The scale's giving away.
But no, I'm a bit upset that Ian got to the Kersey case before me. I've known about that one for a while. That was one of the reasons why I did go to Kersey. I think that was the first time I went. So I was curious to know what the place looked like. So actually, I wonder if I can. I don't know if I dare touch my laptop. I'm wondering if I can get an image of Kersey up.
Here,
Unless one of you guys
one.
can do it for me.
I've got
you got more reliable
Google Map.
You got far more reliable laptops than me. There we go.
It's not very big, and it's just due west of Ipswich.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to see.
Is it purposely keyhole shaped?
I don't noticed that.
That's just the town boundaries.
Yeah, it's just my conspiracy side of my brain kicking in.
It looks more coffin-like.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is that.
There's
Might
some
have been dropped
local
on the way, but
there's some local myths and legends about one of the hills around here. Now, mind, I'm saying hills. It's actually classified as a mountain, but it's a hill to us up here.
Yeah.
And when you look at that hill during autumn or winter, it's 90% covered with fir trees of various types. But there's this one little section of deciduous. And when they start dying off for the autumn and winter, they create the shape of a key on the side of the hill. Now, there's not been any archaeological exploration on that one yet, but they have been exploring one about 5 miles away that has similar myths and legends connected to it. So I'm wondering if they're going to have a look at that. And is the key some kind of... I mean, keys wouldn't have even been that shape back in the days when people were living on the top of hills in the middle of nowhere.
There wouldn't have been that many keys around anyway.
Exactly. So but it's just a random thing that it's filed away in the conspiracy files in the back of my head.
Linda's saying about that just reminds me of something on the stories I'd heard about Kersey. Also, when I rechecked the story about Kersey, I actually got mentioned in a couple of the things I'd read and a couple of things I'd seen. When the 3 young lads, and I have actually got their names here somewhere. Hold on.
I was going to say I could tell you what they are.
I have written them down. Ray Baker, Michael Crowley, and William Long. Or William Lang, sorry.
Lang, yeah. And the guy who did the investigation with William Lang is Andrew Mackenzie.
Yeah.
Mackenzie, right.
But it's Linda saying about that strangeness just made me think on it. The butcher shop and the houses they went to, they said had like a greenish goo all on the insides of them and over the outsides of them. So that indicates age, like algae and that sort of mildew and that sort of stuff, which is common. But from the descriptions of what the people have given of what the village looked like, and from the time period they claim it was in, most of the buildings wouldn't have had glass because glass hadn't fully started coming in yet at that point.
Or it was too expensive.
Yeah,
or it was too expensive. Or obviously you had the I can't think which king it was, but I think it's King Alfred started taxing for windows. That's why some buildings have got like the fake windows in that are bricked up. You think someone's bricked it up and done a bad job on it, but they've done it to...
Yeah, well, that was a window tax.
Yeah, that was the window tax,
Yeah.
So that's what makes me wonder, because the time period the kids claim that everything they saw was one, it was before the church was actually in the village.
Yeah.
And the church got built in, I think, the 14 or 1500s.
Well, that's what they said. They couldn't remember seeing the church when they went round. They didn't actually know what time frame it was. This was the Alistair Mackenzie who
estimated it, yeah.
Together, who actually came up with the time. This is what we saw.
If he's pieced it together as 11 or 1200s, they would have had glass, but it would have been very yellow, and each pane would probably be about that thick.
Right.
Unless you're talking about the church windows when you can get nice thin stuff because they didn't spare any expense on their churches. Because we've still got some of the original glass from the building I work in, and that was built in 1224.
So it's a newer
the thing with the glass as well is you probably know yourself when the way with you take old glass out, it tends to be thicker at the bottom.
Yeah.
Because the glass is still.
And that's why you get the bullseye effect as well, where it's been cooling as it's poured.
Yeah.
It
actually thickens because it's still moving.
Yeah. I was an idiot one time because I told somebody that it's, in old buildings and very old glass, it's thicker at the top because it's still going down. Oh, you're an idiot. You're a moron. There's no way. So laughed at them and moved on.
Some people do but that Garcia Gordo case, that's been sitting with. I've known about it for a while, but I looked it up when I sat outside in the garden yesterday, and since then that's really been niggling at me, that case, and I don't know why. There's something about it. There's something about 99% it's bullshit. It's just, I'm not sure if it was Reddit or 4chan that the story went out onto originally, and they are renowned for people putting bullshit stories up as being real, especially 4chan. 4chan is specifically for bullshit.
4chan and 9gag.
Yeah, that was the other one, but it's just something about it that makes me think maybe there is something to it.
There could be, but how often you read something and someone will mention something, and years later you'll be talking about something. Oh yeah, that reminds me of such and such.
Yeah.
And it's actually something you read in a book years ago.
Yeah.
But it triggers enough. You only remember enough about it and can't remember having read it. Oh, well, yeah, it's...
See, it could be... They reckon the human brain is so complex that literally, if you knew how to tune into it, you'd be able to remember thoughts from when you were in the womb.
Oh, yeah. We only use something like 15% of our brain capacity of that.
They say that's not true. They say that we use all of our brain. It's just how you use it.
But you don't know. For memory, for storage.
All right.
Yeah.
I've just got a 3.5-inch floppy disk, so that's all I've got. 1.44 megabits.
Well, see, I used to have a flashback in my dreams. It was not quite a recurring dream. It was just this flash of a picture of this guy. And this has been for as long as I could remember. And it's a big black guy with gold rim specs, and he's like this close, looking over me.
Wow.
Right? But he's smiling. It's not an intimidating thing. It's like, okay, he's making sure I'm safe, is the thought I always had with it. And one time when I was about 25, I mentioned it to Mom. And she says to me, has he got hair? I'm like, no, he's got no hair. He's just got these gold rim specs. And all I can see is his face.
Yeah.
And she says, yeah, that's Solomon. When I was 6 months old, I lived in an oxygen and steam tent in an isolation ward in one of the hospitals in Yorkshire. And I used to suck my thumb. And you know when kids suck their thumb and they do this?
Yeah.
You're undoing your nasogastric tube. when you're doing that. And Solomon's job was just to sit there and make sure I didn't accidentally kill myself while I was sucking my thumb. And every time I would have looked over, I would have just seen this face watching me. I was 6 months old. And I remember him.
There's a photo of me somewhere. I was about 17 or 18 months old, standing in the cot in like a blue baby grow type of thing, or blue outfit. And I still remember, even now, nearly 52, I still remember my mum standing the other side of the room, taking that photograph, talking to me.
Yep.
So,
we've all got little flashes from that young.
You think, I can't remember what I did last week.
I can't remember what I did this morning.
Yeah. But it's all up here. You see it with Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I know.
With Alzheimer's. Their memory goes back to year dot.
Yeah.
They remember people from 40, 50, 60 years ago.
There was one lady.
It's all up here. And all you got in there is a grey lump.
It's the difference between RAM and ROM.
Yeah.
What we use every day is random access memory, and the bits that we think we've forgotten is the read-only memory.
Well, this is what I was saying before about alpha mode. Alpha mode is ROM.
Yeah.
You're acting on a program your brain has written that allows you to do complex things without even thinking about it.
Yep.
You try doing it with your RAM, and it goes to rat shit.
Yep.
Because you're consciously thinking about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And going back to what we were saying before about where the girl went in and saw the monk's bedroom. She was addled with, she might have accessed a part of the brain. I'm a big believer that we don't use, going back just what I said before about we don't use the majority of our brain.
Yeah.
We have lost the ability that we had in the past.
It's one of the things I see.
Everyone has that ability. Everyone has the ability to be an empath, to see ghosts, to talk to and do things.
That's one of the things.
Just forgotten it.
We were taught to not believe in that anymore. We were taught to not believe that anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry, what you saying, Linda?
Every so often I have to go for MRIs and things.
Yeah.
And I want them to show me an MRI and say, see that bit there? That's how you can do this weird stuff by talking to dead people and stuff.
Yeah.
I want something to show up on a brain scan to say, that's the bit that does that, and that's the bit that does that.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to find somebody to talk to while they're doing the MRI.
It's like the guy who was struck by lightning. And then all of a sudden he was a concert pianist. He'd never played.
The one that used to see the black and white dots.
Sorry, guys. Apologies.
Somebody let a Tyrannosaurus in there, sorry.
But yeah, no, you said about that. There was it George Michael? I think he'd had pneumonia or something, got ill. And then when he came out, he'd gone into a brief coma for a little while. And when he came out, he had a West Country accent.
Yeah.
The reason I have to get things like that every now and again is I have hemiplegic migraine, which gives you stroke symptoms. There is a lady in Cornwall who had a big hemiplegic migraine like I did. My one was 18 months and put me in a wheelchair. And I couldn't speak for 6 months. And the lady in Cornwall was 2 years unable to speak.
Christ.
And when she was able to speak again, she's now got a German accent. She's never spoke German in her life, but she can no longer phone for her prescription. She has to go in person because they don't believe it's her on the phone because of the German accent.
Christ.
It's kind of like that Scottish person that Carl keeps putting up in the small videos. Nice German accent, teaching the Scots how to talk.
Yeah, exactly.
In fairness, I was trying to make it look like the Nessie was saying it. I was trying to make it look like Nessie was getting the interview, but it didn't work.
Well, in this area, half our numbers are German if you're using the local slang, local dialect. Because you got in German, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Locally here, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Very similar.
Yeah.
So, who posted this picture?
How much buckfast you drunk?
Oh, the wreck the house juice.
Yeah.
Who shared this image?
Well, it was me. It was just what Linda was saying about having the key in the
I would love to be stood on a hill, look out, and see something like that. That'd be absolutely bloody brilliant to see.
Yeah, I did hear a story about it. I don't know how true it was, that the guy who put it in, it was something to do with his family member dying or something.
Oh, he specifically drew it like that?
Yeah.
Didn't somebody do a heart or something like that when a family member died? And
I don't know whether it was this or whether it did ring bells, but I can't find the story. So
there's also the stone map of Scotland that was created by a Polish POW, and the folk that had the estate had completely forgot about it, hadn't looked after it. And then it was bought over by a hotel chain recently. And when they were exploring the woods around it, they found it and uncovered it. And now it's back being shown off to folk. And it was just created by a Polish POW for something to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
What I was wondering with these time slips, it goes back to one of our previous. Now the other laptop's just decided to turn itself on and link in. But no, these time slips, could they be linked with one of our previous videos about reincarnation?
Potentially. Some folk would argue that a time slip is a sight into your own previous existence, but
which would explain why they always tend to go backwards to a previous previous life.
Yeah. Except for the ones that we talked about in the future.
Yeah.
Is there obviously on Facebook? There is 2 or 3 people that supposedly claim that they're time travelers. It is absolute utter shit, to be honest.
Well, what they're saying definitely is, because you sit back. The first time I saw the first couple of those, I saw on this date we're going to see this. So I wrote down the date and I wrote down what they said and I pinned it on my board. And when that date rolls around, you wait a couple of days and none of it happened. So it's like, complete BS. So then I just
well, that's it. If the world ended every time it was predicted, we would be on life cycle 28,000.
You mean like climate change?
There was
how many years? 40 years.
There's one guy on there that claims he's a time traveler and all that. I went, okay, if you're a time traveler, and I gave him a date, and I think it was like late 80s, early 90s. I gave him a date. I went, I was in this certain location. Go back in time and take a photograph of me playing a video game with my cousin. The following day, he posted the picture up, and it was 2 black guys playing Pong. So he got it slightly wrong there. I know I'm dark skinned. That's the Native American and the German in me, but no, I'm not black, and I wasn't playing Pong with my cousin. And also, my cousin.
You didn't have an afro, did you?
No, it's all.
Oh, that'd be me.
And also, my cousin, he had as a young black guy as well. And my cousin, at the time of this image I was thinking of, he was about 6 years old. He's got skin as white as porcelain, and he's blonde.
I remember back in high school waiting 45 minutes for Eric the Viking to load on the computer.
You've got that wrong, Charles. I don't care what
Sorry?
you say. He was right. I've put
My skin must
a
have lightened
photo
over
in
the
your
years.
thing if you want to put it up, Carl.
Let's have a look. Which one's this? What?
This is
That's the map I was telling you about.
Yeah. Barony Castle.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in the middle of the lake?
It's in the middle of
it's a relief map, but when it rains heavy, it does fill up like that. So that must have been taken after a heavy rain set. Unless they've permanently put water around it.
No, it's permanently surrounded by water, according to this. It's about 40 metres by 50. Barony Castle, Edelston.
Mm-hmm.
Built over 6 summers between 1974 and 79. Mainly the work of a small group of Polish lads.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it?
And there's a natural, well, we don't know if it's naturally occurring or if it was done on purpose. But on Bowfiddle Rock along the coast from me, somebody has discovered a miniature version in that, but we don't know if it's naturally occurring or if it's, and it just looks like it, or if it has been done by somebody. We don't know because it's only relatively recently been discovered. So, because it's one of them rocks, if you go to it when the tide's out, if you're not sure of the tides, you didn't go to it.
Yeah.
Because I've had to get a lift from a passing RNLI rib off of there before. Because me being me, I was exploring and I ended up sitting on the top going, well, this bit doesn't have any seaweed growing on it, so I should be okay here. And then the RNLI boy comes by in a rib and he's like, do you want a lift? I'm like, yeah, please.
The thing, if time slips, there's just so many aspects about it that it makes you wonder, is there a purpose to them? Is there, I know it's going to the kind of religious side of it, but supposedly in religion, everything is, we said about it during reincarnation, that the one theory is that you're going to say, right, today, which is what, the 16th in 2025, you're going to do a live stream and you're going to have nothing but problems with fucking computers because they're a pain in the arse. Excuse my language.
Yeah, because it's the 18th, actually.
I was just going to say it's the 18th.
So the date on the computer's changed itself.
I had one oddity similar to that once. I was on a night out with my pals.
I think I've just had a time slip. I think I've gone back 2 days.
I was on a night out with my pals, and it was the Friday night, and I took a photo of one of my pals dancing with somebody. And it is still in the gallery on the old mobile phone as being taken the Monday after. I took it on the Friday night. And the date on it is the Monday after that Friday. I showed my pal and I'm like, check, you're time traveling. It's only ever happened once.
Right. I've managed to get onto TikTok on the other laptop. We got up to 60 viewers, and guess what happened?
Died.
No, the StreamYard page decided to crash.
Yeah. Well,
I think this video was meant to have been just for you three. Because I was
set up that way.
My nan always told me if something goes wrong when you're in a location, it means you weren't meant to be there at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that you're kind of changing the oomph about it.
Yeah. Well, we'll look back in this in a few months' time, and there'll have been no problems.
At this stage,
we'll have been in on it, and it.
Carl been on the whole time, no skips, nothing.
Oh.
We have had some interaction on the comments.
Yes, I have been watching them. Yeah. I have actually replied because when I couldn't get on, I've been watching on StreamYard and on the TV. I've been commenting a couple of times. I even said hello to Tina because Tina said to say hi to you, and my comments haven't even come up on the in the chat.
One did.
One
did.
Yeah.
I saw that.
A lot of tech problems. Watching, but I can't get on.
There's two others that I posted.
Louisa interacting with us. Perry's.
Yeah, Louisa, I've known about.
Yeah.
I've known Louisa about the same
Perry's
amount
going to come back to us with some stories.
Yeah, I've known Louisa about. I've known Louisa and her other half, Chris, about the same amount of time as I've known you, Ian. I've known her for quite a while.
And I now know who Perry is as well. So
can we guess Colin?
No.
Well, Perry's going to come back to us with some suggestions for subjects. So
I've just seen that.
Perry's been doing some local investigations where they live and found some.
As in perineum, yes, yeah. I remember now.
Found some random things, bits and pieces. They do dowsing rods and things like that. Mm-hmm. And anytime I'm down there, they're always like, right, let's go to this place here. I'm not telling you anything about it. I go fishing psychically to see what I can pick up.
I love doing that.
And then they put the two of them together. And then one of the other team members goes and does the research. And so far, so good. And one of the buildings, the first building we did it with, has now been taken over by English Heritage. So I consider that a success story. And it's all down to Perry and his pal finding it in the first place.
Tell me that is a made-up name.
What, Perry? Yes, of course it is.
Perry Neal.
Say it all together. You know what it is.
No, I know exactly what it is. I was going to say, surely to Christ, no one's parents are that. But
that would be funny if it was a real name, though, wouldn't it? Could you take them to school?
How much did your parents hate you? Tell me without telling me.
From the moment you were born.
You guys will obviously know him. Kevin Bloody Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His daughter's name's Jenny Taylor.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
So,
I do know somebody.
That isn't a made-up name. That is actually on her birth certificate.
I used to go to school with a lad called Richard Head.
Oh.
And he insisted on being called Richard.
Yeah.
Finally,
to be fair, it took. So we were in the first form, second year, before anyone. Oh, dickhead!
Yeah.
I genuinely
we were.
I know one. There's a lad that's about 4 years younger than me. Mental Rangers fan.
Well, that goes without saying.
He christened his son Bertie Blue Nose. So Blue Nose is his middle name. And the poor lad's just hit high school, so Christ knows what he's getting.
He's gonna have
especially for the Celtic fans.
When I was younger and when I lived in the East End of London, I used to go to a school called George Mitchell, and actually one of the guitar players from Iron Maiden used to go to that school about 12 years before I did. But I knew some twin brothers called David and Wayne Kerr.
Oh,
yeah.
You know, and ironically, Wayne was the nicer of the two.
Yeah.
The name like that is either going to be absolutely brilliant or he's going to live up to his.
Either your parents absolutely hate the idea that the condom split, or they've just got one hell of a sense of humour. But you got to think about the poor child as they grow up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In fairness, I haven't seen either of them in about 30 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, names and that change and meanings change.
Well, look at Bowie's lad.
Zowie.
Chris and Zowie, But his name's actually Duncan, and it was Duncan that he was enrolled at Gordonstoun School as. Duncan Jones.
He actually
changed it to Duncan, didn't he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them, I mean, like you said, you look at some of the names that pop stars are giving to the kids.
Mark Bolan's
even bloody film stars.
Mark Bolan's son, for instance, Roland Bolan.
Blossom. Yeah.
Jesus.
And you got the Geldof's daughter, was it Fifi Trixabel or something?
Yeah.
Or Tiger Lily.
Tiger Lily as well.
Tiger Lily. Well, Fifi Trixabel was one as well.
That was it, yeah.
Someone.
But no, these time slips though, could they be? I'm wondering if they can be manipulated so you can actually, because they claim you can do out of body experiences, you can do remote viewing. I wonder if there's a way of manipulating it so you can specifically do it.
Well, again, I think it goes back to what I said before about we possibly knew in past existences. We've lost so much of our psychic skills.
Yeah.
Because as Joe said, we've been told we can't do it. The body can't do that. We can't do that.
Yeah, that's impossible. You can't do that.
Yeah. We're brainwashed into believing it.
Just before we quickly continue, I will apologise to those that are on TikTok. We're having major problems with my laptop. It's unbelievable. At the moment, we've got about 60 people or 60 people trying to watch us on TikTok at the moment.
Hello, TikTok.
Hello.
Unfortunately, as you know, look at the troubles I've had tonight. So it might have been easier from when I came off and I was watching you on my TV. It was flowing perfectly, but since I've come back on, the camera keeps glitching out and keeps freezing, all sorts of things. So I've got to stop being a tight fist and go out and pay for that battery.
Buy cheap, buy twice.
So I just don't want to justify paying that much money to get a battery fitted into a laptop. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'd get it. I'd take it to somewhere that repairs them and just find out. Get them to put a battery in and find out whether it is just the battery.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, if it's proper old school HP.
No, that's the type of battery for the one that I've literally just thrown against the wall.
Because as soon as I got that computer, I plugged it into the wall and ripped the battery out, and it's been sitting here ever since.
Yeah.
So if anybody can make use of it, let me know and I'll send it you.
If you'd said that an hour ago before I smashed the other laptop, then I would have
I didn't know you were going to do that. I'm not that good. I see things I shouldn't know, but I'm not that good.
Are there any other cases?
Into time warp and
if
I could do that,
we're talking about time warps. I was so hoping you'd be in your Rocky Horror outfit, Ian.
I am. You just can't see the bottom half of me.
To remember to shave them this time.
Oh no, I've been growing out. I plaited.
I think I've just made myself feel sick.
Do you want to look?
Are there any other cases that have caught your attention?
I've got one.
Oh.
Avebury.
Yes. I'm going to let you go because I think I know what you might be going on about.
The village fair. Right. It was a rainy October evening in 1916 when Edith Olivier was travelling from Devizes to Swindon in Wiltshire. Edith was said to have felt a little tired and wanted to find an inn where she could rest for a while, then continue her journey. She drove off the main road, found herself driving down an avenue which had huge megalithic upright stones. She realised she was in Avebury, where large stone megaliths were abundant. As she drove nearer the centre of Avebury, she decided to pull her car over and have a look at the stones. She'd never been before, but recognised the scenery from photos she'd seen. She stood on the high banks and could see little cottages nearby, and it was then that she spotted, in between the stones, lots of people attending what seemed to be a fair. The people held flares and torches whilst they enjoyed the stalls and games at the fair. She was very surprised to see no one was wearing outer garments, despite the rain falling quite hard. She could hear the crowd shouting and laughing whilst they were being entertained by the entertainers. The rainfall got heavier, and it was then that she decided to return to her vehicle and carry on her journey. She wasn't to visit Avebury for another 9 years. On her return, she purchased a guidebook, and to her surprise, read that the last time Avebury had a fair was in 1850. She told a local guide of what happened to her 9 years ago, but was told, "No, you're incorrect. 1850 was the last year we had a fair. So you must have been mistaken." Feeling quite perturbed by what she heard from the local guide, she told them of how she got to where the fair was being held, an avenue of tall, upstanding megaliths, but astonishingly, she was told that this particular avenue had actually disappeared before 1800. So what did she experience? Was it a time slip or a ghostly experience? If it was a ghostly experience, why would she have seen the megaliths?
So
and it leaves it there for your own self to discuss.
You saying that kind of reminds me of a book that I read. As I'm not a TV watcher. I think since a kid I've not been overly TV watching, because when I was younger I wasn't allowed, because I was so controlled. I wasn't allowed to watch TV. So I've read a lot over the years, and I can't remember off the top of my head the name. I think it's The House that Jack built. I think it was. No, I can't remember anyway. But it's by an author called Graham Masterton.
Yeah.
His books, he will take myths and folklore and legends and then put them into like stories of like the Baby Boothall's a child actor from the 30s. There's about Brown Jenky and things like that. And there's one that he done, and I think that was in the one about Brown Jenky, that said he used the Jack Be Nimble nursery rhyme. You know, Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Somebody just walked behind you, Linda.
Well, the door's locked, but I have just gone bloody cold.
Literally, as you said, yes. From what is this side on my screen? No, your other side. That side. Yeah. Going towards that side. Somebody just walk past you.
Well, if you go back in time for time slip, underneath this thing with the flames on it here, that's where the fireplace used to be.
Okay.
And coming from this side, you're coming from the front lobby, the bathroom, or the bedroom.
I'll watch that back though, because I've only just noticed you got a cigarette on, so it may have been cigarette smoke. I saw.
Might have been.
I was going to say I've been seeing cigarette smoke going across.
I've been hoping it's the cigarette smoke, because that's why I keep leaning over here to try not to get us a block.
I've not been able to get us onto TikTok, so you're fine. On YouTube, it's fine. It's on TikTok, it's funny. So a couple of times, we've even had warnings of having Coca-Cola on TikTok.
Yeah.
You know.
That's what they used to do to us in the video chat room that I used to work in.
That's clearly a Coca-Cola bottle. Yeah, it's come up as alcohol warning. If I'm not a drinker, but if I was a drinker, I ain't going to spoil the taste of the drink with Coke, am I? I'm going to drink it as it is. So, oh my God. To be honest with you, the stress I've had tonight and how much I've let you guys down with all this video, I'm so tempted to attack my Jack Daniels.
No.
I've had that bottle, not Jack Daniels, sorry, my Southern Comfort. I've had that bottle for about 12 years now. I must have, at least that long. It's just stressed me. But Joe, do you know of any in specific?
Um,
Had you heard of the San Francisco one? Was it San Francisco? Sorry, the Florida one.
I don't know if I remember that one right offhand. Let me look here. Maybe I can find it real quick. And
is that the one that you said earlier about the castle in the woods?
Yeah.
yeah.
There is literally in the area, there is no record of any buildings whatsoever being in the area of forest. So it makes you wonder. And the weird thing about it is, I'm thinking it might have been, not that I believe in them, but I think it leans more towards the alien abduction side, because the mother and the aunt don't remember seeing the children leave the garden. But when they went to look for them, they'd been gone for hours, yet the kids say there was only like about an hour at the most with all of it combined.
Yeah, but you know yourself, you get wrapped up in something, doing something, time flies. So for kids playing and getting, it might seem like 5 minutes to them, they're enjoying themselves that much. And
especially in old style playing where you're out in the woods.
Yeah.
I mean, today was a prime example, because the car Heidi's got is only like a little one, and with 3 kids in the back, to the point that they're getting so fed up, especially in this heat, that they're punching each other in the face, with a 4.5 stone dog walking around the car, plus the 2 adults. There's no room, so Heidi's been trying to find a new car, and I literally phoned her up earlier. I go, I can literally only be on the phone for 2 or 3 minutes, because I've got to take the dog out, I've got to get food, I've got to try and sort the computers out ready for tonight and all that. The next thing I knew, it was like 40 minutes on the phone. So time can slip away so quickly. It's unbelievable.
Have you heard the one about King's Lynn?
No.
I saw that one, but I didn't get reading through all of it.
I started watching the thing this morning on Time 6, see if there's some that I might have been interested in, and it did start mentioning about that sort of area. But I had to phone Heidi about some of the stuff with the schools that's going on, because obviously CJ's going up to the next school soon.
Yeah,
and I just didn't get round to watching it. So, but no, do tell.
It's from the late 1990s in King's Lynn. The guy wouldn't give his real name. My dad's sister and I were in town to send my sister off on the train, and we were passing the time standing by a fence near the railway station, from which one could see the road and roundabout ahead. It was about noon, and we had no agenda at that time other than to wait before heading to the station. There was a lull in the conversation, and we were casually looking straight ahead when suddenly the atmosphere changed. The sound of traffic around us stopped abruptly, as if someone had literally turned the volume right down. The air seemed to change too, and it became very still, spookily still, and no sound could be heard. The man then described what he saw. He said, then there came the sound of horses' hooves on the road, and within a few seconds we saw a horse and cart driven by a large, angry-looking man dressed in what I estimate to be 18th century clothes.
Okay.
It was of a very rough, dirty appearance, and his cart was well used. He drove the cart around in a circle all the time, stirring around, sometimes directly at us, sometimes away, but looking absolutely furious, as if he wanted to kill someone, basically.
So I'm listening.
Face was red with hatred. Yeah, face was red with hatred. Eventually, he turned the horse and cart round and drove it off down the same road from which it appeared. Quickly as it happened, the family found themselves by the side of the busy road watching traffic speed past them. We all three looked at each other, shaking and almost disbelieving. But once we had asked the inevitable question, "Did you see that?" and received the answer, we were even more shaken. It was a peculiar experience and one I shall never forget.
Interesting.
They didn't notice any other changes. The buildings and road layout seemed the same, but that part of Kings Lynn has remained unchanged for many years. But it certainly spooked him.
There's definitely someone behind you, Linda. Sorry, I just want to know that the window. I'm standing looking at the TV screen, and I think you might have a bit of activity tonight, Linda.
Of course I will. When there's an alarm set for 6:30 in the morning to go to work, of course. Unless the only thing I've just thought of...
It's Mal, whoever it is.
Well, there's 3 male voices in the house after 9 o'clock, and Mary doesn't like men in the house after 9 o'clock.
Oh, that could be it.
Yeah.
Does that lead into your hallway where your front door is?
Yeah.
That door. Yeah.
Over there. Yeah. The one you can see into is the kitchen behind me in the back door. But
that's where I'm seeing it. That's where I've seen it. Like I said, it could be your cigarette smoke. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I've seen a couple of flash hints of something potentially behind you. So I'll have to try and have a look back on that and see if it...
Well, it's funny because I've had a couple of where I've looked down to see what the cat's doing. But the cat's not there. The cat's out.
Oh.
So...
Yeah, I remember you putting the cat out.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my ex-dogs is around, or somebody about this kind of height, desk height, is around, because I keep looking around and looking down because I keep seeing movement over here as well. So
you've been haunted by the ghost of Jimmy Cranky.
Oh God, no.
God, I could not stand those in the 70s.
No. I know my old dogs pop around every now and again. So
now you just moving your cigarette and smoke there.
Yeah.
I think that's debunked it. I think what I was seeing was your cigarette smoke.
Yeah. I've been seeing it all night drifting across because I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've not actually. It's just it literally, as you said something a little while ago, and I looked towards Linda as she was speaking, and then I noticed it. So, and it wasn't until a little while after I noticed you had a cigarette on. So, right, okay, we've got that debunked. I thought we might have got a bit.
Probably is because, as I say, fishing while I'm sitting here, it's only something that's desk height that's wandering around tonight. So it's either one of my previous dogs or some kid from somewhere.
I thought we might have got a bit of interest and activity on the bloody camera then.
We can try something like that before. I'll send you some photos when I dig them out at some point from a live stream I did on a website I used to work on, where we had faces coming out of my Ouija board that was behind me.
Interesting.
At that point, I didn't know how to do screenshots, so I was telling people in the room, take a screenshot and send it me.
I can only apologise for the total screw up that I've had with the technology. I've had no problems at all since Friday with either of them. This one I'm talking to you on that has the problem with the battery and like copying and pasting everything. Since Friday, I've been able to move it around and it's not once played up.
Yeah.
And tonight it's just been one problem after another. It really has. And I'm pretty upset about that because I was really looking forward to tonight.
Oh, you get to watch it on your
TV?
I
want to watch it. I've got a huge amount of edit because it's screwed up so much now, though. I've got so much bloody editing to do before I could actually properly go live. But I am gonna bite the bullet. I'll have a look online and see how much one of the batteries are for this laptop. So it'd be cheaper online than it will be to go to a shop. And changing a battery on the laptop's not going to be difficult.
Yeah, the thing with that is, like I say, if it's not the battery, you've then wasted the money on the battery.
Yeah.
I'd check it. Is there anywhere that does repairs in that?
I think the nearest place is Colchester, which is about 15 miles away.
Yeah, because that'd be what I'd do. I'd check it in, because it'd be pointless laying out 50, 60 quid for a battery and then find out
it's not that.
The bloody thing's fried.
Yeah.
How old is the laptop?
Less than 2 years old.
Did you used to use it on battery a lot?
Sorry?
Did you use it on battery a lot, or did you keep it plugged in all the time?
No, use it on battery a lot.
Yeah.
Because
battery.
as you know, because of my depression, I have the sleeping problems. I'd put the laptop on the bed. I'd put meditation music on. I'd find a documentary. I'd find a science program or something like that, and I'd leave that by the side of me. I'd just listen to that to try and help me go to sleep. So it was a battery. It could well be the battery.
Yeah.
So
I put Time Team on. When I can't sleep, I'll put Time Team on and sit there and listen to that.
I listen to Paranormal M when I'm going to sleep. It's all stories from Reddit, but the guy's got quite a good fall asleep tone. Or there's the tape library.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I watch the tape library, yeah.
And his other one, the Midnight Drive thing that he has.
There's another one that's good called Bedtime Stories.
Stephen Dalton.
I don't know if it's his name.
There's Stephen Dalton Sleep Stories. He's an Irishman that lives in Transylvania. He's good as well.
I saw this earlier. Now you know why it's called Bigfoot.
Well,
I think that would be extra large foot, wouldn't it?
I was going to say, someone says he's been to Turkey with them teeth.
I think that's the one Linda was talking about, who she bumped into.
No, he was a redhead. He must have been an orangutan.
But we've got to visit cryptids again, though, because there is just so many of them. And Linda, with all your ghost tours and all of that, you must have heard so many. You must know from your area.
So many random stories, but there's I've forgotten the name of it, the Brocken Spectre. And
I have heard of it, but I don't know nothing about it.
That sounds familiar.
It was thought to be a ghost story, but it's actually just a scientific artifact of having the sun behind you and cloud in front of you.
Oh, yeah, the is it third man syndrome or something it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's that picture he was on about earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
that looks like one of the high school athletic t-shirts he's got on.
It is. It got debunked. It was proven to be.
This is it. It got debunked. The glasses are actually from the 1920s. And
they're saying about the glasses and that, but we mentioned it before watching I watched QI. And there was one on there. The glasses and tinted glasses have been around since the 1800s.
Yeah.
I think it was about 1860. I think they was actually around before the monocle was around.
I don't know about that, but I know there's a pair in our local museum that with cobalt blue lenses.
Oh, nice.
And they are so cool. And then when Bram Stoker's Dracula came out, the glasses he has on when he's the Count, when he's wooing her, are the exact same shape and style as the blue ones that are in our local museum.
Oh, nice. I have not seen that film. I've not seen that film in so many years.
It's one of my favorites. I've even got the soundtrack on LP. I
didn't know there was a soundtrack.
Record. Yeah.
I have got the soundtrack of The Crow somewhere. I'm not sure what I've done with that, though.
I never got hold of that, but I'm now looking at my video collection and thinking, what am I going to do with that? And now I've got nothing to play it on.
What happened?
My 25-year-old video died last year.
Oh, 25 years ain't bad going, though.
Yeah, considering it cost me nothing. It was a prize I won in some competition.
Well,
I don't know what competition, because when I got it, I used to enter everything.
Yeah.
But there was nothing on to say where it had come from. So it sat in the box for 6 months, and then I thought, right, that's it. Finders keepers, it's mine. And it worked for 25 years.
Ironically, I'm actually wishing I was a year older than I actually am, because I got myself a scratch card earlier. I don't hardly ever buy them. Maybe one a year. I thought I'd try my luck, and obviously I did win. But when they first came out, I was about 6 months or so too young to be able to buy them legally. When they first came out, somebody had misprinted them, and every single one of them was a £75,000 winner.
Mm-hmm.
But I was too young to buy one, and I would have loved it. But through sheer luck, at the time, I'd had a lot of personal problems at home, and with my father, because of like me abusive past and that. And I had no benefits coming in. I couldn't get a job. I was homeless. I was living on the streets on and off. I was sofa surfing, and I had £1, and I bought a scratch card, and I won 160 quid.
Mm-hmm.
So that came in handy. That got me a room for the night. So, you know, and for food for a few days. So it came in handy. But when I was younger, I lived in Leytonstone, up near where I literally just round the corner from where Iron Maiden started, the pub where they started. And there was a really well-known tramp. Everyone knew him. His name was Frank. Everyone knew him. They'd say, "Oh, hi, Frank." He'd say hello to people. He'd help old ladies across the road and all sorts of things. And he went to buy some of his beers, because he had a drink problem. And he was something like 15 or 20p short of buying it. And the shopkeepers went, "I'm sorry, I'm not serving you." And he went, "I'll tell you what then, give me one of them scratch cards. And when I become rich, I'm going to throw it in your face." He scratched it and he won over £1 million. And he went back. But you know what? He still chose to live on the streets.
Yep.
And the last I heard, the closest he'd come to spending it, he bought you know, you get like the council allotments.
Yeah.
You can sometimes buy your plot of land. He bought his plot of land, put plants in there, bought a shed and had a shed put up there, and lived in the shed until he died.
There was a guy like that in Yorkshire in the 60s. Lived on a roundabout on the main Leeds Bradford Road. And when he died, they went and had a look at his tent to get his belongings to see if there was anything for like contacting family and things like that. And they found 7 Rolex watches still in their boxes.
Damn.
They found 5 shoe boxes stuffed with rolled up notes, each roll being like that. The guy was minted, but what his story was, because my mum actually knew him, his story was, he'd gotten a massive tax bill one year and he decided he wasn't paying it.
Yeah.
So he left his wife and
kids. It wasn't
kids.
Jimmy Carr by any chance, was it?
Who?
Jimmy Carr.
Oh, right. He left his wife and kids in their big 4 or 5 bedroom house, and he went homeless and lived in a tent on the roundabout to avoid paying that tax bill. But he went back and visited the family regular.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, when they emptied his tent, he had enough to buy his own flaming house. But because he didn't want to pay the tax man, that's the life he chose.
Let's bring up this. Who shared this one?
I did. It's my fault.
Joe. This
it's
one,
just another one of those, either time traveler, maybe, or time slip or something, where it looks like she's talking into a cell phone.
Could be a walkie-talkie.
No, it's been debunked. It's long been debunked. It's actually transistor radio.
That very well could be.
Yeah. I've put one in there as well.
She's listening to Megadeth on the radio.
Yeah, well, why not? Let's have a look what this is.
This one is the 1962 World Cup.
That one's a bit more interesting because that does actually look like a cell phone.
I was going to say it looks like an old school light meter.
It's
like what photographers hold up.
Yeah, it's actually a box camera.
Ah.
With a light, with a flash on top.
The big flash box on top of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. I went and had a look
I've got to look at it on the telly because it's bigger on the telly than it is on here.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I need to stand in front of the telly then.
I was just wondering why he's taking a photo of his groin.
Yeah.
Well, like Linda said, it looks bigger on the telly.
Depends how hard you bump into him.
Yeah. Because there's that famous one in, I think it's an old Charlie Chaplin film, isn't there? Supposedly, there's an old posh woman walking with, she's holding a phone or something to her ear. That's a very famous one. I think it's Charlie Chaplin, but that's been debunked as well because it was. They believe a lot of people have explained it. It was actually an ear horn.
Yeah. Yes, because it's the exact same hand position to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The trouble is with things like, well, you know, the trouble I've had of trying to get bloody the YouTube up and running. People think, see, we're not doing it for the fame and the fortune. So, but like I said, Ian can have the beer and Joe can have the bitches. But people think, you know, if I put any old crap on YouTube, because there's so many conspiracy theorists out there, I'm going to get the hits that I want to get.
Yeah. Again, I just put one in about Chaplin. This is a Chaplin one.
That is the one I'm on about. Yeah. That is the one I'm on about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is apparently it's actually looking at it, you can see it is an ear horn.
Yeah.
Ear trumpet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, but then again, you know,
if you hold it delicately by the narrow end, it seems it does. It's like because I grew up rattling around old houses and stuff. I've played with an old-fashioned ear horn, and a lot of the time they were short enough that they stop just at the end of your hand. So if you hold it like that, the rest of your hand becomes more of a receiver.
Yeah.
To increase the volume.
You see people doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also the smaller size, it lessened the stigma of losing your hearing and being in public.
Yes.
So, see that one. I think
at that point in history, it was all about appearance. And if you had the great big one, everybody's going to take the mic because you're obviously deaf as a post. But if you have the little one, you're only just starting to lose your hearing.
Yeah.
Because it's all about appearance in that time.
Yeah. Anyway, because we've been on for a while, I'm going to watch back what I missed out being on because I'm really annoyed about it. I'm actually really upset that it's gone so badly tonight.
And you'll be able to see how many times you popped up and disappeared. I'm just so embarrassed at how badly it's gone tonight. I really am.
Well, we've been on over 3 hours.
Christ. That's my fault.
I think if you're looking at increasing audience, I think we're going to have to start setting time limits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like to say that, but yeah.
No, I did mention about that in chat the other day. I was going to, or I don't know.
Because we all know we could sit here for 6, 7, 8 hours, probably.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We're doing it not for the hits, not for the.
Yeah,
we're doing it because we love talking about this sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's it.
But no, I'm really, really quite upset and embarrassed about how it all went wrong. Tits up today. But it's sod's law, no problems whatsoever since Friday. And then literally the second 8 o'clock hit on the Wednesday, it all goes wrong. But I bet you after this...
It's been reclassified. It's no longer sod's law. It's called Twining's law. Usually, if it can happen, it will. And it's usually to me.
No, this week it was me again. So, but I can guarantee you, without a fact, after I end this, I could put my PS5 on, sign up, and I bet you it will go onto online with no problems whatsoever.
Yeah. And the other bonus as well, seeing as you were trying to do TikTok, if it's a shorter one, I might be able to go without a fag, which means we won't get a TikTok block.
I was going to say, we're not doing 5-minute shows.
Thanks, Perry.
Oh.
Cheers, Perry. See you soon.
Bye.
Thanks, Perry. Oh, but no, I can only apologise again for the total fuck up, excuse my language, but it has been just a fuck up with technology tonight. And technology is meant to be here to make things easier for us.
Technology is brilliant when it works. Yeah.
But it don't work.
Get out my head.
Yeah.
It's 3 times we've done that tonight.
Like I've said before, these things in the supermarkets and that are meant to make your shopping time quicker. It ain't, because every time you put something across the bar thing, you have to get one of the staff members to come and put the code in to accept it.
Yeah.
So,
I quite like that when you put alcohol through and it comes up with a check.
To see if you're 18.
To see if you're over 18. It's when they walk up and just go dink. Ask me.
Right, provided I can get this bloody thing to work, what's the next topic? So I believe you've got to work next Wednesday, haven't you, Ian?
I might not be.
Oh, okay.
All depends on what's happening. Yeah. I might well be able to get back, but I'm not holding my breath.
No, that's fine. But what are we thinking next?
Well, maybe Perry could come up with something.
I think Perry's gone.
Yeah, he's gone, but I said...
He's gone, but I can send him a text.
Yeah, just say, come up with some ideas.
Yeah.
Same with Louisa. She said the same thing.
Yeah.
In fact, if Colin's still in here, Colin can tell him because he knows him.
Okay.
I'll send him a text as well.
As I said in chat, there's
well, someone else. Just as I turned over them to look, it came up. It went from 5 to 4 watching us.
Yeah.
We did manage to get onto TikTok for about 6 or 7 minutes, and we had about 60 people watching, but it was going all tits up.
Yeah. Well, that's usually about. I was going to say every TikTok thing I've seen is about less than a minute.
About things going tits up.
Well, yeah, and they're about a minute.
Yeah. No, there are a lot of people. I suppose it depends what category you're looking in. If you're,
I'm not on it, but
you're not.
I tend to get stuff sent, like you sometimes send stuff through.
Yeah, but obviously I follow because we're into the paranormal now. I follow the paranormal ones on there, and yes, most of the videos are just like about a minute, anything from 15 seconds to 10 minutes long. But a lot of paranormal teams do live investigations on TikTok.
Yeah,
and some of them can be 3, 4, 5 hours long.
Yeah.
So, but no, I can only apologise once again, guys, for the total balls up tonight. But
it's all right. Just don't let it happen again. Yeah, somebody's like a cheapskate.
Yeah.
The whole point is it's a learning curve, and you learned.
Yeah.
Oh, look at me.
Cow, you got us on there, so it's a damn sight more than I could have
exactly.
In fairness, like I've been trying to do for the YouTube channels, I've been so fixated on trying to sort it and getting really frustrated with myself because of my mental health and not being able to do it. I've barely slept since Friday. So, and I think that could possibly.
The next job on your list is sleep.
Yes.
Do you know what? Normally, after the Wednesday, my serotonin levels are so high because I've had so much fun. I'm out like a light, But tonight, I think because it's going to be screwed up, I'm going to be right on edge at the moment.
Just start watching us. You'll soon be asleep.
Yeah.
No. Some of the stories you say were fast. What I think I'll probably end up having to do is download tonight and just really chop it and just put it up as shorts. Unfortunately,
just cut to the stories.
Yeah.
So that'd be like good evening and goodbye.
You missed the bit where they showed me legs.
I missed that bit. Oh well. No, I think I'm. In fairness, I've not been out on the motorbike in about 2 months anyway, so she probably needs a good run out. Mind you, I need to get a new battery for that as well, and she's only a year old.
Yeah, you invest in a trickle charger.
I've got one.
Use it. Yeah, use it. They don't like being stood. No vehicle does.
No.
So even if it's literally just going around the village, get it out once a week, get it around the village, get the oil flowing and get the battery charging. Because
sometimes with me arthritis though, it's difficult. She's like excuse me. She's 160 kilos wet. So with my legs, sometimes it's not exactly the easiest to maneuver her about. Yeah. Because where it is, I have to bring her through the back gate, past my front door, and I have to maneuver her around the staircase to put her out the back. Because obviously my last one, I was laying on the sofa, which at the time was underneath the window, and less than 6 feet away from me, 2 teenagers. So I put the new one out the back now. So, but no, again, I will. Again, one more time, I apologise for the total balls up. I'll try and rescue whatever footage we got tonight. Even if I just have to put it up as short videos, or short stories and that. That was it. It was toying with witchcraft for next week.
Yeah.
So
we were talking about.
See, witchcraft in itself would be perfect for Linda. I know some about Wicca side of it, but you know more the traditional witchcraft,
ancient,
the ancient stuff. Whereas I know a little more about like the gardener witchcraft.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing, really. It's just there's so many folks say to me, "Oh, you do Wicca," and I'm like, "No, my day job deals with ancient history. My head's full of ancient history,
Lovely.
And my mum's actually older than Wicca."
Yeah. It gets me. I see all this stuff on Facebook. With all this, witches are this, witches are that, witches.
But that's all religion.
Right, they had a bad reputation. They weren't all cuddly and bloody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For every fairy godmother type witch, there was also a Rasputin type witch.
Oh yes.
Yeah. But you being a practicing witch yourself, Linda, you'll know there's no such thing as black or white magic.
Yeah, it's all intention.
It's intention.
All intent.
The black or white bit was tagged on by the Christians.
Yeah, it was glorious. Because what's in the Bible?
I mean, the only reason I call myself White Witch is because I got fed up of folk going, so are you a good witch or a bad witch? So I added white to shut them up because I was sick fed up hearing the question.
I'm a bitch witch.
Yeah. Yes, I am. I've got a t-shirt that
let me have some. Let me have some of your hair, and I'll show you.
Yeah.
I did years back. I did have the books. Is her name Ray Beth? Hedge Witch and Solitary Witch. She wrote.
Don't know, to be honest, because the ones I use most often, one of them is a recipe book that's been derived from a 14th century first aid book.
Isn't that just the average chip shop in Glasgow?
Well, what weeds and herbs do you put on your infected battle wound for last week, basically? Makes a fantastic acne remedy.
At the moment, because of my diabetes, I've got folliculitis, and it's awful. So maybe I might borrow your book off you.
Have a bath in porridge.
Yeah.
It's still 65 degrees here in Essex at the moment. We're just after half 11.
I like you. I'm up at 6:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
midnight 30 here.
I apologize again. Last time, I'll apologise. I'll try and save what I can of this footage, guys. It may be like an old shut and cut that I chuck up there, and I'll try and do the best I can with it. But because of technology being technology, I don't know what I can do.
As long as we're enjoying it, Carl, that's all that matters, mate. That's it. And I'm enjoying it. Otherwise, I'll
be like we said 10 weeks. Like we said 10 weeks ago when we started this, we're not doing it for the fame and fortune. We're doing it because it's something that we absolutely love, and because we're all on different parts of the world, it's easier to do it.
For the bloody booze. You keep mentioning booze and birds. I'm still waiting.
Well, see, I find it funny the location.
They'd have been knocking the door down.
It's all of our locations that I find funny. Joe is in one of the places that's on my bucket list.
Come visit. I got spare room.
France, yeah.
Ian, well, I'll be down there sometime in September, probably. So we just need to find reasons to visit you.
I was going to say there's plenty of places down here that are well worth visiting.
Aye.
I'd say
one of the times I was down, you know the Tudor house.
Which one? There's several.
There's
Spindles Hall. There's Alice.
No, this one's just called the Tudor House in Southampton, I think it is.
That's nowhere near me.
Aye. Well,
I'm northwest.
Aye.
Yeah.
I just work down in Southampton.
You're just working down there.
Yeah.
All right.
I live in Lancashire.
I mind you can't say north when you're speaking to me.
No, north of England.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I'm Lancashire, although they call it Greater Manchester.
Aye.
It's not. It's bloody Lancashire. I was born
right, guys. Well,
no die one.
Yeah, it's bedtime.
I'm going to have to bite the bullet and just put my hand in my wallet. Because I'm trouble is I don't like spending money on myself. I'd rather try and get my debts clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, but I think I'm going to need to because a laptop comes in use anyway, doesn't it? So, again, apologies. I'll edit best I can, and I'll chat to you when I can, guys. Thanks for holding the spots for me when it all went wrong, and I shall speak to you all soon.
Yeah.
See you later.
Take care.
Night.
Yeah. Shut up.
Night all.
Night.
And you. Bye. Oh, now it won't turn off. No, it won't now. It won't end the stream. fuck's sake. Come on, end the stream, stewed machine. Fuck's sake.